The Sonic Movie Show is a weekly podcast that you could find on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other services like YouTube. Just search for The Sonic Movie Show and give us a like wherever you listen. What's up, guys, and welcome to the 50th episode of The Sonic Movie Show, the only show that's about Sonic news, and Sonic movie news. My name is Ethan, and with me here today is Devin.
Where's that damn fourth Chaos Emerald?
I know what that's from. That's from Shadow the Hedgehog. It's a very popular
Which is
clip
that's what we're going to be talking about today. But I couldn't find. Well, there's no quotes.
That's what we should have done.
That we're talking about tonight. But
we should have did Shadow the Hedgehog instead.
Say fuck it.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So today is a very special day, Devin, and the crew out there in the Sonic Movie Show universe of people. Today is our 50th episode, and we're going to be spending it in style talking about a little-known game called Sonic the Hedgehog.
It's a very small indie game.
I know.
Probably never heard of it, honestly.
Yes. That's why we're doing this today. It's very special. You probably saw special artwork we did for today's episode, whatever podcast feed that you listen to this from. But yes, we're doing this for today only. Special deep dive into the original Sonic the Hedgehog.
Into the hog.
Yes. Enter the Matrix. Enter the hog.
That should be our backup name for this show. If it ever, for some reason, we get hit with a copyright strike, we just say Into the Hog.
See, but I've seen podcast names that are like Sonic Podcast,
the Mario Podcast.
Yeah, stuff like that. It's like, wow.
The Disney Podcast. Do you think that would fly? I'm sure there's a Disney podcast, but Disney, I feel like, would be. Oh, no. You're not doing this.
I mean...
Nintendo's kind of like that with, like, Let's Plays and all that. At least they were in the past.
And they've lightened up on it, but, like, at the same time, if you dare put music from one of their games on YouTube, they will, like, fucking find you in real life and knock at your door. Like, they've done that.
They'll hold your mother hostage.
Yes. It is funny seeing stories from Nintendo leakers literally having lawyers show up at their door.
Oh my God. Yeah. Is that worth it at that point? Just wait.
I don't know.
Is the leaks really worth it to have
know.
Lawyers at your door?
We're not talking about Nintendo today. Not until the 31st. We're talking about Sonic the Hedgehog, blah, 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 blah. We're going to do a deep dive into this video game. But before we do that, I want to know, and you want to know, Devin, what each other's history with this particular video game is. Okay. Why don't you start first?
I thought maybe I might have played this at some point. I think I've said when we first started doing this that my history of Sonic is pretty random, but at the same time, it was the first game I remember ever playing on what I believe was a Sega Saturn. It was so long ago. I was like 5.
A Saturn?
Or
a Genesis?
Genesis, sorry. It was so long ago. I was like 5, but I remember playing as Sonic, and I think there was Tails in there. That's the only reason I know it wasn't the first game. Playing on the Sega Genesis and getting really frustrated because I couldn't get past Chemical Plant Zone as a kid, but I still kept playing it and it got to that point and then would lose again and then give up. But that's one of the first games I ever remember, so Sonic's always been there for me. But I thought, like, oh, maybe I did play this game. Let me see if, like, anything jogs my memory as I'm playing this. Nope,
Besides
nothing.
Green Hill Zone.
Besides Green Hill Zone, but no, nothing. I don't think I've ever played this game ever up until this point.
Yeah, for me, I never played it on Genesis. I played Sonic 2 on Genesis at a friend's house once at a birthday party, and I was like, wow, I play Sonic Adventure 2 on my GameCube, and this is old Sonic. This is weird. And I, like, hogged the TV, and his like, the friend who had this system in his bedroom all his life, like, complained to his own mom that I was hogging the game. I'm like, are you kidding me, kid? I fucking never touched this before. This is in your room. You have a TV in your room.
Hey, you're the guest.
You have a giant TV in your room, and you're gonna, like, complain that I'm playing the thing? Fuck off, kid.
Don't touch my shit. I'm on that kid's side. I'm on that kid's side.
Oh, fuck you. I told him his birthday party sucked too one time.
I think maybe you were.
I was an asshole, but I also didn't understand things. You know what I mean? But
I just knew Sonic.
So just like you, throughout life, I'm like, have I ever played the original Sonic without being like, I'm going to go and play the original Sonic. You know what I mean? And the answer was no, I never have. I did on the Nintendo Wii, I did buy Sonic 1, 2, and 3 on their Wii Shop channel for $8 each, or 800 Wii points, which I believe was $10. It was weird. They wanted to do the thing where like, oh, I have 200 points left over. I guess if I buy more points, I can spend. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you have change left over.
What's the currency now?
Just your normal money.
No V-Bucks?
No, no V-Bucks.
That should be the
yeah.
gamer currency, by the way. I think everyone should just work on V-Bucks.
Imagine
like
if
like coin.
imagine if Apple loses its lawsuit, and one of the weird things the judge rules is that Apple now has to have V-Bucks be the currency used to buy things.
To pay back the debt that they owe to Epic. That'd be hilarious.
Want to buy a new $5,000 iMac? Well, you actually need to spend it in 4,800 V-Bucks.
You have to download Fortnite just to go buy them too.
Exactly. Exactly. You need to give Epic the money first, and then it goes to Apple. So I played it a bit there, and I didn't get very far, but it was also one of those things where it was like, I had Sonic 1, 2, and 3. I'm just going to play Sonic 3, you know what I mean, instead. So I didn't play it all that much. Got it again on 3DS, which I'll talk about much later. Only played it a little bit. So my first real time is also for today's episode of like, hey, I'm actually going to try to beat this game. Like, that's my mission, as was yours. So why don't we get started, Devin, and talk about Sonic the Hedgehog. We're going to start off with the origin. How did this game start off, Devin? Do you want to know?
Chapter 1, origin.
Chapter 1. Yes.
Or more like lesson 1. Lesson
yes.
1.
Basically, to set the scene real quick, Sega Genesis came out in 1989.
Great year.
And the Nintendo Entertainment System was already dominating everywhere in the world. It was a huge success. The Genesis came out and was like, cool, like it's a 16-bit system. Like, it sold early off of that, but like there was no actual good games. And Sega didn't really have any good mascot for the character. They tried bundling Alex Kidd with the system. No one really liked Alex Kidd. They tried not Golden Axe, Altered Beast. That terrible game. Fucking awful. That was a pack-in for the Genesis for a while. It was terrible. No one liked that game. They struggled with...
That is...
The game actually is bad. It's completely garbage, especially on Genesis. The arcade version is a little bit better. But anyway, they struggled with a while of like, hey, we don't have like an identity. We've had systems before the Genesis. They didn't sell in America very well, and because Nintendo Entertainment System was great. But we kind of treated, as a person I'm going to bring up, we kind of treat all of our properties as like disposable. None of them are like, hey, if you see this thing, you automatically think of Sega because it's been around forever. We kind of throw them away right away. So almost 2 years into the Genesis's life cycle, the Super Nintendo came out, and that's when Sonic came out. And it took them 2 years to actually come up with a mascot. So after several failed attempts to create a mascot and a brand for the company, Sega had an internal search for designs for a new game and character. They kind of like, not a contest, but like ordered people, pitch us, we need something.
So Sonic wasn't just like, hey, we want to make a game where a guy goes fast or anything like that. This was specifically, we need our Mario.
We need to beat Mario. They didn't know it obviously at the time, but the Super Nintendo would launch with Super Mario World packed in, just like how the original Nintendo came with Mario Brothers in America. So we have Yuji Naka, who was a programmer for a while at Sega. He had been working on ways to have a character sprite, so like the actual character itself, smoothly transition between different variations of sloped ground, which is obviously the loops in Sonic. You have games like Mario and Alex Kidd, which was a Sega Master System type of game of like, it was just constantly horizontal planes. He was working, and he was like a whiz kid programmer. He was working on ways to program it so that the character would very smoothly, without hitching up and down, like little tiny bumps up and down, being able to run through a loop if he wanted. And through that, he thought of Mario, and he thought of playing Super Mario Brothers a lot. Super Mario Brothers 3 had been out for like a year or so, and he had played that game a lot. And his inspiration for the speediness of the gameplay came from the idea of playing Mario a lot. Not being able to save meant you replayed levels over and over again. If you died, you had to start from the beginning. Eventually, you would get so good at the levels that you could go through them very quickly. So the idea was like, okay, if I played the freaking first level of Mario Brothers over and over again, I should be able to get through it in 10 seconds. I know to just run, jump, jump, jump here, jump, jump, hold here, and I'm done, right?
Yeah, if you're a true gamer, yes.
Right. You combine that with the fact that the Genesis's whole shtick was like its architecture was like, hey, we're able to make really fast-paced action games. Then it's like a no-brainer. We can make this happen. He also he worked on a game that I've actually been playing recently on Switch through Sega Ages called Phantasy Star. He programmed for the Sega Master System, an 8-bit game. He programmed first-person 3D grid-based dungeons, and I'm watching this game unfold before my eyes. I'm like, this looks way too smooth and good for like an 8-bit console. He was like a way ahead of his time. Like he was.
Well, from what you're just like mentioning, especially with like moving a character down a slope, like we take that shit for granted now. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, but like
Yeah.
the fact that like that wasn't a thing. Like now that I think about it, I'm like all the games kind of before Sonic that I can think of is pretty linear. Like you have to not linear, but like blocky, I guess. Where
Like
Mario has to
Mario
jump.
3 had slopes, but they were always at one angle, maybe two. But it was just like you crouch and then he slides down them. It wasn't like, oh, you're going down and up and down and up and down like Sonic can without hitching on pixels and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it's not constantly trying to be like, wait, what's your horizontal level? Oh, wait, you're supposed to be here. No. And then, fucking up. People talk about Yuji Naka as one of like the great programming talents of his time. Like
How old
they
was
talk.
he when all this was?
So after graduating college, he didn't go to college for anything related to programming or computers. He learned that himself. Back in the day, you would buy magazines that would have code in them, and you would type that code into your computer. And if you were interested, you would figure out how it worked and what does this section mean. Maybe the magazine kind of explained this is recursion, so this is going to repeat over and over again or whatever. He was self-taught that way, like a lot of the other whiz kid programmers from this era did. He actually applied for Namco, creators of Pac-Man, and it got turned down because he didn't have a degree in anything related to computing. And Sega picked him up because Sega was kind of like, so Sega started off as Sega was founded by Americans
Hell yeah.
living in Hawaii.
What else did we not found?
Americans living in Hawaii that would import electronic stuff like jukeboxes to Japan. So like they were a Japanese company in the sense that their business was for Japan, but like they were Americans, and so they always had this weird like freestyling kind of nature. Like I said, like they disposed their characters in games up until this point because they're like new thing, whatever, man. And we'll talk about where he ended up after Sonic 1. And the fact that he was able to do that is because Sega was just like a whatever, man kind of attitude about it. But so they hired him and he worked on a few games. I don't have the rundown, but Fantasy Star was a big notable one for me of like the fact that he was able to make a 3D dungeon in first person on the Sega Master System is insane. Moving on, the character design is by Naoto Oshima. He was a designer and he drew the monsters in Phantasy Star. They never actually worked together. Yuji Naka and Naoto Oshima did not actually work together. Their first time working together was with Sonic. And in an interview, Oshima stated how like his dream was to work with Yuji Naka because he heard about how smart he was. He was like, oh, if I can work with him, he can make anything I draw happen. You know what I mean? Oshima's whole idea was, okay, the Genesis has this weird foothold in America where it's like the marketing was like way more effective over there than it was in Japan. Like it had like the gross out kind of 90s humor of it of like, yeah, whatever. Like Nintendo would try to emulate that with Kirby and Donkey Kong and it wouldn't work out as well as Sega did. So he wanted to make it a character that would appeal to Americans. Straight up. This character was designed for us, Devin, not for them.
Hell yeah, that's why we love him so much. Fuck Mario.
Sega wanted a platforming character and they wanted an animal. So they thought about when the team got together, which I'll talk about the team in a bit. The team got together. Naka said, "I want to make a fast game. look at what I can do. I already have like a demo here of like being able to move a thing really fast. You know what I mean? It's not hitching up on stuff. So many fast animal ideas were pitched, and for a bit they actually settled on a rabbit character that could pick things up with his ears. So you would run up to something, pick it up with
I can kind
your
of see
head,
that.
and then maybe you would throw it. Maybe it was like you needed to put it on switches. There was one switch in the game in Sonic, seemingly randomly. You know what I mean? Like maybe that came from there. But it was decided that that would interrupt the game too much. You know, this is supposed to be a fast moving game if you're stopping all the time. If you're telling the player you need to stop a lot, which Sonic 1 does anyway.
Yeah,
So I
I was
don't really
gonna say,
understand this
I think
point.
that's my biggest criticism of the game and most Sonic games is that no, Sonic
Yeah.
goes slow. Sonic got to think what he's doing here.
Yeah, exactly. Sonic can't see too far ahead. You know what I
He
mean?
can go fast, but his visions
Yeah,
ain't too
exactly.
clear.
So they put that idea on on side, but Oshima thought up a hedgehog because an idea was floated around about evolving the concept of what Mario does in a platformer. Mario, to defeat an enemy, jumps on them. He does get a power up that allows him to throw a fireball. And by this point, it's Mario 3 has been out, so he gets one where it's the Tanuki tail, where he gets to spin around and hit something directly in front of him. But for the most part, he's jumping on enemies to defeat them. So you evolve that, okay, simply jumping on an enemy. In Mario, it's okay, but a lot of other platformers try doing that too, and it's a little bit confusing of like, why can Alex Kidd jump on someone? Like, for some reason, it makes more sense for Mario than like just the idea of like, oh, that's just what you just do in a game. So they wanted to have their character be a projectile. He is supposed to be a fireball, essentially, shooting through the air. Like Sonic doesn't hurt things with his feet. When you jump on an enemy, he's always spinning. It's the spikes that do it.
He's a weapon.
Exactly. I mean, yes. Hedgehogs could curl up into a ball, and their spikes could hurt enemies. While there are many inspirations for the aspects of Sonic's design, as we'll talk about, one that lends itself back to this is that Oshima wanted a character that could be drawn with simple lines and still be recognizable. He wanted something kids could draw very easily. He wanted them to be able to, what does Sonic look like? He's got a big circle, he's got triangles on his back, you know what I mean? Draw arms and feet, right?
Big eyeballs. And
Exactly.
still, when they made a Sonic movie, they somehow couldn't figure that out at first.
That is fair.
Something so simple.
If Sonic's curled up into a ball, it kind of looks like a sun or something, or a flaming fireball, a blue fireball shooting. Like, it's very easy for kids to, I'm going to draw Sonic running through my notebook. You know what I mean? That's what he kind of wanted. He drew a bunch of stuff, and Oshima went on a vacation. He actually took his vacation to New York.
Where dreams are made of.
Exactly. Not only that, Devin, he went to Central Park.
Okay.
Like any 90s New York City-based movie goes to. Although I guess this would have been... Yeah, no, this would have been 90. He took with him a lot of his drawings, and he showed people there 3 of them. And he asked these people, random people walking by, what they thought of these 3 characters he had drew. One was a dog idea. One was the hedgehog idea, which didn't have a name yet. And the last was a round man with a big mustache. For some reason, Sega actually said, if you don't want an animal, we like the idea of an old man with a mustache, with a big mustache. People liked the hedgehog idea the most, and people also liked the round man.
I wonder why that is. But now you think about it, like how many of our like fast food restaurants are like.
I gave you
people-
drawings of Eggman, and
Yeah, I
Eggman
see that.
he's, I don't want to say cute, but like, he's not like a disgusting villain. You know what I mean? Like, he's a fun cartoon character.
And he
but
even has the Mickey Mouse button pants in one of the pictures here.
yeah.
So I think that might have something to do with it. That's kind of relatable in that way, maybe.
Actually, yes, we can talk about that too in a bit. But the fact that the dog was a dog was liked the least reaffirmed the direction that they were taking by dropping the rabbit. Okay, yeah, rabbits are more well known than hedgehogs. They're cuter than hedgehogs, but like people liked the hedgehog, and people like this fucking old man. You know what I mean?
So that's something I never would have guessed, is that Eggman was there from the beginning as well. Like I thought that would be like, okay, we have Sonic, we have the levels, he needs a bad guy, like he needs a Bowser. Eggman, this big
Right.
round dude. That's interesting that he was there from the beginning.
Yeah.
That's
And
Maybe
in
in
an
an alternate
reality,
universe,
we were
maybe
playing as him.
that's what I'm saying. In alternate
Yeah.
reality, maybe he's the one rolling around. Actually, I would love to see that Eggman
Yeah.
rolling around on a level.
One of the people that worked on Sonic Mania had a game where it was like a Sonic type of platformer, like a fast paced 2D thing, and I believe you were like an Eggman type of character. I might be wrong here. Oshima claims that the general design for Sonic, obviously, he made this claim well after Sonic was hugely successful. I think within the past decade or so. He claims that the general design for Sonic came from when he was goofing around and put Felix the cat's head on Mickey Mouse's body. And so
Okay.
if you were to do that Photoshop right now, it's kind of really close to what Sonic is. Sonic is blue because the Sega logo is blue, and his shoes are a weird combination of the American flag because he wanted red, white, and blue to appeal to Americans, Michael Jackson, and Santa Claus.
All big. I mean, outside of Michael Jackson, Santa Claus, red, white, and blue.
Oshima claims
Yeah,
that Santa
those are all
Claus,
big
and
things.
I agree with him. Santa Claus is probably the most well-known fictional character. Like, not
Yeah.
necessarily an image or a drawing, but just the idea of him is more well-known than
You know
probably
what he looks like,
Mickey Mouse.
you know.
Yeah, exactly. He wanted a balance of cool and classic, and we'll get to the classic thing. So there are some contradictory pieces of Sonic's design. I think the way it really worked was like a bunch of ideas and like, yeah, this is kind of like this and kind of like that, and it's kind of like there are three things and this is kind of like two of those three, so it's not necessarily one or the other, but
Yeah.
he drew inspirations from Michael Jackson's photo shoot from the album Bad. And he
Classic.
basic because Michael Jackson was the coolest motherfucker probably around that time for 89, 90.
And that was a big album too. That was one of the biggest albums
Yes.
I think of.
If
the
you
90s.
notice, if
Yeah.
you look at Michael Jackson's shoes, what's on them? And they're also like going up his pants. It's a buckle.
Yeah, the buckles there, whole shit.
The
ton of
buckle
them.
on, yes. By the way, if Michael Jackson wasn't like a rapist and he didn't die, he would totally be inspirations for Final Fantasy characters because that motherfucker likes drawing belts and buckles on all of his fucking Final Fantasy characters. But anyway, yeah, Sonic has buckles on his shoes because of Michael Jackson and because Santa also kind of did too. But the idea of like Michael Jackson's a cool ass motherfucker. And that outfit, I don't think that outfit's bad either. Well, jokes, but I don't think that outfit's bad. You know what I mean? uh, you know what I mean? So like this combination of cool and classic worked for Sonic. It wasn't just Oshima could have drawn Sonic in the most dated way possible, or in the most like way too kitschy kind of very classic Santa cartoonish kind of way, and it's not relatable to the people of
I
that
will
era
say
either.
that like when I think of Sonic, I do think of what we saw in this game, if not maybe like Sonic 2 and whatnot. Like, yeah, we have our current like Sonic, which I think he's gonna be like that for a while. But I actually always will prefer, I think, the classic Sonic where he has smaller legs,
So he's got a fatter head.
fatter head. He does have he looks like an old vintage video game character. So does Mario. So like that way, you know.
Miyamoto's inspirations. Miyamoto loved really old cartoons. He loved fucking
Yeah.
Popeye. Original arcade game Donkey Kong, which is where Mario first came from, was when he was trying to make a Popeye arcade game, but they said no. So he's like, well, Popeye will be this new character called Mario. Bluto will be this new character called Donkey Kong. Olive Oil will be this new character called, I think Lady is what she's just called, and whatever. That's what Mario is saving, right?
But yeah, I think that's what makes it so classic. Is because the cartoons, even in the '90s, were classic. That was all 30s and 40s, so that's already 50 years up to that point. Those people's
Right.
parents might have watched that stuff, but they
Exactly.
grew up with that. So I think that's where the American, I think, attractiveness to like smaller, rounder characters is from the cartoons that we've been kind of
Yeah.
bred
It's
to
just like how George Lucas took the things he grew up watching and turned them into things that the generation he would make films for would like. Indiana Jones is all those Pulp Fiction novels he read as a kid, you know what I mean? And Star Wars is fucking what's it called? Like its name escapes me. Flash Gordon.
Flash. Yeah, I was thinking of
Yeah.
the Queen song.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and yeah, it's just like that's how it works. You know what I mean? And people that make indie games today are fucking basing them off of Sonic and Mario and weird graphical glitches in Tetris and Metroid and shit. You know what I mean? That's how it works. So these two ideas, cool and classic, hit two of Sega's big three design concepts. So Sega viewed themselves as a cool company, which I would imagine everyone would like to, but they viewed themselves as a cool company.
No, we're serious here.
And they liked the idea of an underdog with nothing to his name. So Sonic at this point was cool. That's number one. And he was a challenger. That's number two. But the third design concept was history. By the time the 90s rolled around, there were several entertainment companies across the globe with famous characters that just, they felt familiar. Everyone knows Mickey Mouse, regardless of if they've actually watched anything starring the character. You just know. You look at Mickey Mouse and you know that he has a history. There's just a familiarity about him. Same can be said for a lot of Japanese kind of cartoons and stuff too. Hello Kitty is from Sanrio. They made lots of characters, and there's a weird like heritage. Doraemon's another one over there. It's a huge heritage to that. So to hit that note, this is gonna blow your fucking mind.
Okay, I'm ready.
To hit that note, to pitch that Sonic has history, besides the fact that I think the design already hits that. In a sense, like what you were just saying,
How much of that is because we grew up with it? You know what I mean? Like we weren't there when Sonic came out of nowhere. You know what I mean? So I would have loved to be back in this time and be like, even like 15, be like, oh, I'm playing my Mario. What's this blue guy? He looks cool. Like
exactly.
Like yeah, we all know it now. So I'm curious.
This is gonna blow your mind.
What you're gonna say here? Let's see. I'm ready.
So to hit that note, they decided, when they were going to make their pitch to Sega, they would make up a history. A fake history for the creation of the character was made for their internal pitch to Sega. The lie was that they stumbled upon documents of this character about an old pilot who was always challenging how fast he could go. And I'm talking like World War II, World War I era pilot, like the Studio Ghibli guy, Hayao Miyazaki. He loves those era of planes, is that kind of guy. He always was challenging how fast he could go. This pilot could go at such high speeds, Devin, that his hair would stand up like spikes, and that would earn him the name of Hedgehog. Now, like any Daredevil pilot, Devin,
of course,
any Daredevil pilot, his plane was decked out with nose art on the front of the plane. Yeah. You know, you draw. There's always like, oh, there's like a hot lady or whatever,
or a shark, but shark teeth.
Exactly, but his nose art was of a blue hedgehog. Basically what Sonic looked like. And the back of his leather flight jacket, which might be a little bit, I think that would actually kind of warm you up if you're in the air, whatever.
Yeah, it's
hot when you land. But the back of his leather flight jacket was emblazoned with an emblem of Sonic the Hedgehog, essentially. Didn't have a name at that point. This is the emblem that when you turn the game on, that's the title screen. It's that.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. He would go on to marry a children's author who would write stories about the fast Sonic the Hedgehog, and all these kids would get it. So the idea was that, like, oh, this was forgotten into history, and we found these documents. Look how cool his character is. He's up for grabs because no one knows who Sonic is anymore.
So, like you're saying, like the higher ups of Sega, right?
I don't actually know if they bought this or not, that they believed this to be real, but this was a way of showing, like, no.
Because if you brought this up now, like if you're telling me, like, you from scratch you made this character and you're like, yo, hold up, I found this like piece of paper, right? It was in like the recycling bin. I don't know how it got there, but there's like this fucking hog looking thing. It's like blue, and
now we can't find any of the books.
We can't find
that
the
apparently
books.
were written, but we know they were.
You could look at your library, but you probably won't find it because it's that rare. It's no one's ever heard of.
So you can see art of that Oshima drew of a very 90s anime looking dude with a leather jacket on with Sonic behind it on the back of it. But yeah, so basically this pitch was mostly done by Oshima because he was very much into planes. He was very much into cool nose art on them. He loved leather jackets, and he loved these kinds of flight emblems.
I was going to say, now that you're talking about the flight, like the like flight emblems and all that, because like I love reading about like World War II and like World War I and all that, and like all the air, like usually like the American Air Force has a lot of the like eagle wings, these lot of eagle wings and symbols like that. Now that you say that, I'll never look at the emblem any other way again. Like that 100% is something you would see on the back of a flight jacket, a bomber jacket.
Exactly.
And like
History.
now that I think about it, I wouldn't think about that. But now that has changed my whole perspective on this. Wow,
And see, I blew your fucking mind.
you did, you did it.
Yeah, because for me, it's a little sidestep here. For me, like, I don't want to just read things that I already have said, but like that kind of logo did feel familiar to me. That the emblem idea, I'm like, there's something about this. This isn't just something that is only in Sonic. This has to be somewhere else because
It
it just
reminded me a
kind
lot
of
of
felt
like
that
racing
way.
too, like
Yeah.
the wheel with the angel wing, like the Detroit Red Wings use that logo, and I think that's an iconic logo because a lot of race cars and stuff have referenced, or not race cars, but like racing memorabilia has referenced, oh, the wheel's going so fast, it's on fire, or there's a wing attached to it, it's that fast. So like I always relate it to that, like, oh, he's like a speed racer, kind of
Yeah.
character. Like, but now that you say a pilot, or like what a pilot would wear, I'm like, now I see more of that, and now that's never gonna get out of my mind. That's dope.
So the pitch worked, obviously. Otherwise, we wouldn't have played this game.
Spoiler actually didn't work, and it
No.
was an intern who brought it back up, and he was able to persuade him.
And work on the game had begun. Naka would be the lead, and was instructed to with a budget of 10 months and 4 people.
Not bad.
4 people, essentially, is what he was told. 4 people, 10 months. That's not weird. Like,
I was gonna say at the time, is that a lot or is that normal?
it's normal. Naka
Compared
was
to
the
now,
only
that'd be
programmer.
like, is this an indie game? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
imagine if Sega's like, yep, we have 4 people working on the next Sonic game, guys. You excited?
Yeah, exactly. It takes 4 people just to make Mario's hat look right. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And they'll spend 10 months to do it too.
Yeah.
So he had 10 months, 4 people. But Naka would end up taking 14 months and using 8 people, which Sega did not like.
Hey, I'm sure they're not too pissed now, though.
To run you down through the 8 people that we have I'm going to butcher all these names, I apologize. Hirokazu Yasuhara, he was the level designer, and he was responsible for the day-to-day planning of like, this is what we're doing today, here's our goal by the end of the day.
Green Hill Zone.
what we're
Let's
working
get
on.
it done, guys. Come on.
Exactly.
So he's basically like a team lead, kind of.
Yes. But he was also the level designer, too. Only level designer.
Look at that. I like seeing a small team step up in their leadership roles like that. You love to see it.
Oshima talks about how it felt like they were getting a band together. Like this was like, it felt like once they were really working on it, that this was like the dream team. Like they were all like happy. There's only one person that they never actually interacted with, but we'll get to him. Naka would be the sole programmer, obviously. Oshima was the character designer. So he drew Sonic and his sprites, Eggman and his sprites, the enemies and their sprites. He's not responsible for any of the actual regular art. He's the character designer. Gina Ishiwatari and Raiko Kodama would be also art designers. They drew Green Hill Zone. They drew.
So they
Green
had a
Hill
lot
Zone,
of like.
you know what I mean?
It feels like they have a lot of art designers, but not. So it was only just 1 or 2 people doing programming. Then I guess one.
Only Naka. Naka's the only one.
That's what I say. So he was really the one, like, not saying the other people weren't doing stuff that isn't important, but he was the one that's like doing the math and all that shit.
Yeah.
Like, damn, that's impressive.
Yasuhara, the level designer. So how it worked was that there are basically, to put it bluntly, there are chunks that you design. So this is a flat plane. This is a flat plane with something risen above it. This is the first half to a loop. Here's the other half to a loop. These are all chunks.
Yeah.
And so Yasuhara would negotiate on what the chunks would be for the level, and then he would take those and arrange them to his liking. So that's kind of how it worked for him. And then Naka would program it all. So it was very interesting for that.
It does feel like a band, yeah.
Audio was designed by Masato Nakamura from the Japanese pop band Dreams Come True.
Classic.
And Oshima said in an interview that basically they would send Nakamura screenshots of the levels and say, can you make music for this? Can you make music for this? Can you make music for this? And he said that they were very specific on what they sent him. they didn't want to send him a picture of Sonic first. They didn't want his first impression to be of Sonic. They wanted to be of the levels because he was afraid that they be like, oh, Sonic forever. His first impression would be Sonic is for really young kids, and they wanted Sonic to extend for everyone. So they want Sonic to be a cute character like Mickey Mouse that, older women, younger women, you know what I mean, would also be into, that isn't just teenage boys, essentially. Especially since this is for Americans, you know what I mean?
I feel like
he would send back tapes.
That didn't. I mean, I would say Sonic is family friendly, but at the same time, I feel like the biggest fans are all teenage boys.
If you listen to the music, though, I mean, yes, but if you listen to music, though, it isn't just like A, B, C, D. You know what I mean? Like,
I know what you mean.
There's,
I'm just saying, like, in the overarching, like, end goal, I feel like maybe that's something they can't predict that, though, either.
Well, also, Sega of America's marketing was definitely for fucking teenage boys. You know what I mean? So, like, but eyes wide shut, or whatever the saying is. But this actually, I never realized, because the way Sega is now with Sonic is they always like, oh, the music guy is Jun Sano. And I never really realized, to me, that like, oh yeah, all of the music, whenever he goes back and does his own albums, it's always Sonic Adventure, Adventure 2, and then the stuff later. It's because he never worked on any of these older games. Like, oh yeah, because everyone fucking left, essentially. So yeah, it was designed by Nakamura. He would just send in tapes. They met him once, essentially, because he was from a pop band. And Nakamura made them promise him that this game would not ruin his image and his band's I guess image. They didn't want to be like, oh yeah, they're not making music,
I've
they're
never
making
heard
games
of them
now.
So
that's true too. Whatever. But he pops up as Dreams Come True more often than he does his own name, I guess. And the audio was programmed, as in just implemented, turned from music into instructions to be read by the Sega Genesis.
Yeah, because I know back then they didn't have the space to just put an audio recording in.
Yeah, you couldn't stream audio. Redbook audio is something that came and started with basically CD format stuff. So the Sega CD could do that for the most part, but no, it was instructions that the sound chip turned into tings and tunes.
Well, that's where like the idea of like 8-bit covers comes from. It's like you're putting it down bare bones, but it still has the melodies and the bass lines or whatnot. So,
and the Genesis was very good at it because its sound chip was very good at triangle waves. Which allowed it to do a lot of FM synthesis style stuff. So Nintendo kind of focused on square waves, which has a more, the 8-bit covers are all Nintendo style stuff. They're never Sega, because the Sega stuff is more Michael Jackson-y type of beats, which is what drew Michael Jackson to actually want to collaborate with Sega for Sonic 3.
I was going to say, it's definitely more poppy, I would definitely say.
The drums especially.
Mm-hmm. Especially for the 90s, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. It was programmed by the audio was implemented, turned into code, like I said, by Hiroshi Kubota and Yukifumi Makino. So that's the 8 people. Everybody but Nakamura, who I guess he had an actual name for other things, used an alias for the credits. I'm not going to read them all, but the fun ones for me is Yuji Naka was U2, YU2, and Oshima was Big Island. I don't know if you noticed in the credits, someone's name is just Big Island. Yeah,
I didn't see that.
Also, I didn't look too much into the person that they thanked that's in their special thanks, but they're referred to as Papa. Special thanks, Papa.
I'm assuming this was translated, right? Like it wasn't. So it's.
Maybe
it meant something a little different over there. But
I don't know.
If I said special thanks to Papa in like a book or something, they'd be like your grandfather, or your dad, or someone else.
Most of these folks left Sega at some point quickly, but they all left Sega eventually. And they've all either retired or ended up in other parts of the industry. So Yuji Naka and Naoto Oshima, they are basically the creators of Sonic. The guy that had the pitch for the concept and stuff, and then the actual person that drew him.
They made
and
that
what
baby.
He was. They now work at Square Enix. They have a studio at Square Enix making the upcoming new game, Balan Wonderworld,
which we talked about in a previous show.
Yep.
We're gonna have to play that though, I think.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I am interested just because of this You know what I mean?
Yeah, it also just looks like
It just
it looks
looks
like a Sonic, but like in terms of like the characters, how they
the
visually look.
creativity and yeah,
But it also looks like it's on like some shrooms a little bit, so that's what I'm intrigued about.
exactly. So the only one besides those I want to bring up is Yasuhara, the level designer, because for almost a decade he worked at Naughty Dog as a level designer. I think. I don't know if he was actually just a level designer at Naughty Dog the whole time, but he worked at Naughty Dog for almost a decade on the Jack and Daxter games and the first Uncharted. So he worked
Gotcha.
on those. Yeah.
So they both went on to do kind of big things, I would say, arguably.
Yeah. 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 So like, we'll talk about Naka in a second here, but Sonic would be packed in with the Genesis on day one when Sonic came out. Was a packing with the Genesis.
Remember when games came with consoles?
Yeah, I know. It was like a fight to get a. Nintendo of America apparently had to fight Nintendo proper to have Wii Sports be bundled in with the Wii, and if it didn't, like the thing wouldn't have sold as much as it did because it was like, oh, it comes with the game. Old people love it. So yeah, but Sonic would be packed in with the Genesis for a while and was used to aggressively target Nintendo in ads. The Super Nintendo was $200, which imagine that, $200. I mean inflation, but still. I mean the Game Boy was 90.
That's dirt cheap.
Exactly. Super Nintendo was $200 and came with the lame and slow Super Mario World.
And now the games are $70. What the hell?
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of people paid $90 for RPGs like Final Fantasy 6, but meanwhile, the Genesis was only $150 because it had been out for almost 2 years and came with the blazing fast Sonic the Hedgehog. Which are you gonna pick, huh? The lame Mario game that cost you $50 more or this cool Sonic game?
That's smart. That's one way to like
and,
get people like interested too. That's how you build a base.
Yeah, and that holiday season, with the holiday season of the Super Nintendo's launch, Sega beat them by a good margin too. So that was a big win for them. Yeah. So it's because the game was a pack-in for so long, it's hard to fairly gauge the sales because how many people bought the Genesis had no interest in Sonic because they wanted to get a different kind of game that, you know what I mean? And Sonic was a freebie essentially. Eventually it would not be a pack-in. Other games would be, but like it's hard to gauge sales. But in any case, technically, Sonic 1 has sold over 15 million copies, which makes it the best-selling Sega Genesis game by 9 million. Number 2, second place is Sonic 2 at 6 million. Second place is Sonic 2 at 6 million, exactly.
Which I don't know if that shows that the game, like, let's say Sonic the Hedgehog, the first one, like, we'll talk about what we feel about the game later, but I feel like if that game came out, it was, like, the best fucking thing ever. Like, whoa, right. My mind is blown. Like, this is the game.
And what's funny is that,
Sonic
like,
2 would have sold, like, at least close to 15 million, if not more. You know what I mean? And it didn't. So that shows that it was more about getting the game free, in air quotes there, with the console. I think that helped a lot. So I think you're more on the price with the free game point rather than I'm excited for Sonic. You know what I mean?
Right.
A character to be fair,
you didn't really know. Yeah, exactly. You didn't really know Sonic. And all of the hubbub about Sonic 2 was fervent excitement. Sega basically made a holiday. Sonic 2, they called it Sonic Tuesday. That's when it's going to come out. You're going to get Sonic 2.
Can we start putting up episodes up on Tuesday?
On Tuesdays?
Just so we can call it Sonic Tuesday?
We fucking should. Yeah, so I mean, Sonic 2 was second place at 6 million. And third is the Genesis version, obviously, because there's a Super Nintendo version that's different, of Disney's Aladdin at 4 million.
Okay.
And technically tied is the combined sales of Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles. I don't find that fair because those are two separate games. I understand, like, we know they were supposed to be one game, and they connect together to make one game, but they're separate releases, so I don't consider that third place. Aladdin is third. And Genesis Aladdin is the better version of Aladdin than Super Nintendo. I apologize to people out there, but
I never even heard of the game, so
it's like the old fight, which game is better? Because like two completely different people made the Aladdin. The guy that would make Silent Hill, or maybe it was Resident Evil. One of those two. I think it was the Resident Evil guy.
They're both similar to Aladdin, so.
He made Aladdin on Super Nintendo. It was more of like a puzzle platformer, but the Genesis Aladdin was a fast-paced action game. Whatever. Two different things. But after Sonic 1 became a gigantic success, Naka left Sega of Japan.
No.
Even though he was responsible for a great successful game, Sega was mad that he took 4 extra months and had 4 more people work on the
Maybe
game.
this is why Sonic is cursed. You let the creator walk out the door because of some dumb shit where you got all this money from. Oh, that's bullshit. See, I'm mad.
And I
now.
want to point out that
I'm
this is
tilted.
Sega of Japan, because according to Mark Cerny, who is the Sony hardware lead architect or whatever, but he was also a WizKid programmer. He made a game called Marble Madness, which is also like, how is this possible? He's also a genius. According to him, he believes, he had known Naka, believes that Naka's salary before and after Sonic 1, because they didn't change his fucking salary, was at about $30,000 a year. They still kept him at a normal programmer salary at Sega. He made their fucking mascot character and gigantic success game, that would go on to sell 50
Pay
million.
the man, dude.
You know what I mean? So he was upset and he left. And while it isn't completely on the record, everyone kind of knows that Sega of America, because he went to Sega of America. He took a couple people with him that also wanted to go, but he kind of made a new team over there in Sega of America where he made Sonic 2. Basically, it is all but said publicly that Sega of America gave Yuji Naka a Ferrari to be like, we appreciate you and we know your worth.
Okay, so it wasn't like
please
he left,
come over here.
It wasn't like he left the company as a whole. Like he just went.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not as bad. I thought like it was gonna turn to like he left Sega and went to somewhere.
I guess Nintendo would have been the big rival.
Yeah, like that would have been hilarious. He goes there and
Now,
he makes Knuckles
Naka
or something.
would eventually, Naka would eventually leave Sega after Sonic 2006. Big, gigantic failure. Didn't even make 1 million copies sold. But he actually wasn't even a part of that game. It was other people that were involved for that. People like to associate that it was his fault.
I thought
but
that's where the curse started. Because I'm a conspiracy theorist, Sonic believer here, where I think that Sonic is cursed, and that's why we don't get good Sonic games. And I thought maybe that's where it started. Is like, oh, you shat on the creator. But I guess you could still argue they kind of shat on him still. But granted, he did go to Sega of America.
He never went back to Sega of Japan.
Yeah, I don't know how we don't know what it's like to work in these giant video game corporations. So I don't know if it was like him leaving Japan to go to America was as big of a deal. Maybe it was lesser of a deal. But still, it kind of sucks to be like the guy who, to me, like when you think of Sega, I think of Japan. The guy who made you a mascot. He walks out the door and goes to like a smaller version of you in America where he might not be doing stuff.
Sonic again was also made for Americans, and like
so
that's
I don't think that's what I'm saying.
It sold better, but
I don't think it was as big of an impact as if it would have been if he went to like Nintendo or something, for sure.
I mean, if you think about it too, because again, Sonic 2 is the second best-selling game on the Genesis and a massive success for them, obviously, in its own right. 6 million copies in the 90s is a lot of copies of a game. You know what I mean?
Okay.
A lot of copies of a game.
Compared to 15, though. That's
I mean, if you think about it, Nier Automata, a game we both love, half a year in, it cracked 2 million copies sold, and Square thought that was like an resounding success. They expected that game to make maybe 700,000 copies. So if you think about it that way, now you have Sonic
I was gonna say, like, I think just the drop off is still shocking to me, though. Like, regardless, yes, that's a lot of copies, but like, still, it's a big drop off.
And actually, usually it works the opposite too, like you said. Like, Final Fantasy VII is the big, most famous game. 8 sold better off the back of 7, because everyone heard about it.
Yeah.
Let's get a new one. Let's get it,
Yeah.
But so I mean, he would work there at making Sonic 2. Meanwhile, Oshima was still over. He kind of worked back and forth because he was still like kind of a part of Sega. But he'd worked a bit on Sonic CD. And Oshima claims that Sonic CD was for the Sega CD, a peripheral add-on where games are on compact discs. You know what I mean? Compact discs and any form of disc-based media where there's movement, seeking, and reading, there's going to be load times, essentially. And Sonic CD had load times. When you would go back and forth between the past and the future, the game would load and take a while to load, and you'd watch Sonic spin. Oshima claims that if Yuji Naka worked on that game, there would have been no loading. He would have programmed it beautifully. He loves this
Sega
man.
being a big corporation.
Yeah.
Which I think is part of business. Unfortunately, there's always sin in
And
business.
yeah, it's I think it's great that the two of them are working together on a game again, like a big
Yeah,
game
that's why I think
together.
it looks goofy and weird, but I think the fact that you
It's
have
them, yeah.
the Sonic
That's what's
creators
great about it.
making something again,
Yep.
first time
It
in
isn't one
forever.
or the other, you know. It's them. So that's great. But yeah, that is the origins and history of this game. There's other weird things, you know, to talk about, but like that is what's the important thing about it and why Sonic is it was just a big success.
All
It
right,
would go on
pop
to have
quiz.
cartoons and oh, you're gonna ask me?
No, I'm just joking. I was going to ask the audience, like, okay, pop
Oh
quiz.
man.
Answer out loud. When was Sonic Hedgehog released?
Exactly.
Where did Yuji Naka go?
Sega of America. I mean, Sonic Adventure 2 opening up in San Francisco is because that's where they lived. Sega, that's where you know that Sonic where Sonic Team lived. And again, like sorry, but they consider themselves like a band, and they called themselves Sonic Team. You know what I mean? Like Nintendo didn't do that. Nintendo was like literally research and development one, research and development two. And
boring.
we have Sonic Team. Even
Nintendo
when they would go on
sucks.
to make games that aren't Sonic, they're still the Sonic Team. So that's cool.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, Nintendo, you
but
suck, dude.
let's talk about
Even though I just shat on kind of Sega being
hey man,
greedy.
I was going to as the day of this recording, the Mario 3D All Stars comes out tomorrow, and I was going to buy it digitally because I couldn't get it anywhere physically. But I was able to snag on a pre-order of a PlayStation 5, so I'm not buying
Now-
any games
now
until
s-
I get that.
Now sell it.
Yeah,
Once you get
yes.
it. You got to sell it for
Yes.
$5,000 after March.
Yes, that is. I don't want to talk about fucking Mario. I love Mario. I don't want to talk about him. Let's talk about Sonic the Hedgehog itself, the game. All right. Let's talk about what we think about the game as a whole. We're gonna save the zones for a little bit later in the episode. I want to talk about how the game operates, the small, slight story it has, and what we think about the game. I guess I'll just kick it off. The story is very simple. The evil Dr. Robotnik in America, for some reason, Sega of America didn't like the fact that he was called Eggman, so they insisted that they called it Dr. Robotnik. There would be another weird thing where the opposite would happen in Sonic 2 with Tails, where Sega of Japan really wanted his names to be Miles Prower.
Yeah. I remember you
Which-
telling me about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just like the lie for the pitch about the fake history. They made up some story about how Tails was always bullied, so that's why Sonic gave him the nickname Tails. So that's why Sega of Japan was like, you can call him Tails, I guess. But,
Oh my god.
yeah. So the evil Doctor Robotnik has entered the planet of Mobius.
Is this like
and
because when you play the game, you boot it up, you go straight in. They don't explain. There's no like.
manuals though? That's the thing though. Instruction manuals.
I was gonna
You
say,
were
was this on the back of
supposed
the
to read
box or
this all.
something? For
Yeah,
like,
you were supposed to read it all. This is an era where like aspects of the games you wouldn't think that they would put in the manual because they would be spoilers. Like, hey, here's what the final level looks like. Scrap Brain Zone. It's in the manual. You know what I mean? I don't actually know if Scrap Brain Zone is in the manual, but like that's the kind of thing of like
okay.
Metroid would
That's
be
what I
like,
was saying,
yeah,
'cause-
this is what the Metroids look like. They're in the final area. Like, why are you spoiling this? But that's kind of how it was back then with manuals. Nowadays, you open up, you open up fucking Balan Wonderworld, and Naka just drew a middle finger there for you. Like, that's the only thing that's included with your game, right? But Robotnik is on the planet of Mobius. Sonic lives on South Island. All of the levels take place on South Island,
side, bro.
Exactly.
South side. You know, we don't play over here.
And Robotnik has kidnapped all of Sonic's little animal furry buddies and are using them to, I guess, power these robots called Badniks. And so that's why when Sonic defeats one, a little bunny or a little squirrel or a little,
Yeah.
rabbit pops out, right, and runs away. And then you see all of them in like a canister at the end with a big springy button to stand on.
Convenient.
Yeah, and then that's just the plan. And so Sonic's gotta stop him, right? It is very simple story, very simple idea. Mario is simply I'm saving a woman from a turtle. So this is one that lends itself more to comics.
I was gonna say this too, that even though I didn't know that, like I can kind of gather that Sonic needs to save the little animals. I don't know if it was on Earth or what. I just knew I'm like Sonic needs to save the little animals. And honestly, I like this plot so much better than like Sonic Forces. Like I don't need a
But
background
Sonic
or
was tortured
I
for
don't need
6
dialogue.
months.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's all about just saving his little buddies. You know what I
just
mean?
do it,
They're
dude.
defenseless little tiny creatures, and Sonic
I think that's
is
what makes
a
Mario
giant.
always have like what makes part of Mario fun is that you don't need to know the lore too much. It's just like, oh, Peach was taken.
It's less the
Let's
character, more the game and his fun. And Sonic
yeah,
is the appeal is the character. You know what I mean? Like
which I think might be something we need to stop caring so much about and just make the games
make a
good.
make a yeah. I know exactly. God, what would happen if Sega made a deal with Nintendo and just Nintendo made a Sonic game? Yeah,
Probably
here
be
you go.
good.
I mean, yes, but like be interesting.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I think I like one thing I like about this game is that the story there is really none. Like I'm just going through it. I don't need to listen because when I was playing Team Sonic Racing, I was so annoyed with the goddamn dialogue being like, "Oh my god, we gotta do this race or else Eggman gonna blow up the world." Oh, I'm like, I don't care. I want
Not
to
another
race.
Death Egg robot. These Death Egg robots are everywhere. Let's kill the dead. Shut up! I'm trying to run around like the speed of sound.
Just let me live, Jesus.
Please.
Sonic says, "Live and learn." I'm trying to learn to not listen to you guys and let me live.
Before we talk about how the game plays and our thoughts about that, I do want to make at one point how we played the game. We both played what I think is the most accessible and best version of Sonic 1, the Sega Ages boutique retro release, as I like to call the Sega Ages lines, which I learned ended, by the way.
Oh, rest in peace. Prayers out.
As of last month, M2 and Sega said, yep, we finished with our 19th game, whatever it was called. So it's done. But we're gonna work together in the future on other releases, but that's done.
It's over.
So that's the same. But we're never gonna get Sonic 3 in this style, which sucks. But we played that version, which has a bunch of extras besides different ways of viewing the game with different modes for stretching and squashing and whatever. It added in the spin dash from Sonic 2 and the drop dash from Sonic Mania if you wanted to use them. You didn't have to. And it also added in a mode where you keep half your rings when you get hit. You combine those elements together, it's a lot easier to play. And obviously, the level select is in the game, and there's an option at the main menu of the Sega Ages home screen to jump straight to level select without having to input the cheat code, because there were cheat codes to make that level select happen, and to like make you start with this or start with that, or cheat codes, whatever. I didn't really look into them. I don't really care about cheat codes, but it's an easier way. So we played through it level by level, using the level select. Gave it a couple goes each. You know what I mean? I beat all the levels. I know you had problems up until the very end, or you smooth sailing up until the very end. Did you end up beating
The only one I
every
didn't
level?
beat, the only level I didn't beat was stage 3 or act 3 on Labyrinth.
On Labyrinth Zone or Scrap Brain Zone?
Labyrinth Zone. I did go back and I beat
Scrap Brain Zone.
Scrap Brain Zone and
Starlight Zone.
Starlight I was having a lot of trouble with too, but I beat those.
Okay, so it's interesting to me that Starlight gave you trouble.
It was just because
we'll talk about when we get there.
Yeah,
we'll talk about when we get there. So that's how we played it. We played with these extra features, and we used the level select. We didn't try beating it from this Green Hill Zone all the way to the end.
I did it first. When I first
same.
got the game, I tried it, and I would get to like Marble Zone, then I would lose all my lives because I lost one doing something stupid in Act 2 of Green Hill Zone or something.
Yeah.
And I didn't get enough rings or whatnot, so.
Yeah. So yes, that's how we played it. I don't think it's hampered our experience of knowing how the game plays. This is a much more modernized way of playing it. There's no way in hell that if this game was released today in the state it's in, it would have been like that. It would have added in the idea of being able to live a little bit longer, right? We also played the international version, as it's listed in Sega Ages version of the game, which is the American version. So there's the Japanese, international, and then something called Mega Play, which I'll get into. I'll talk about that way at the end of this episode. So that's how we played it. And we played with all those things. It didn't hamper us, at least I don't think. So Sonic without these extra things, can only run, jump. Every button is the jump button. All on the Genesis's controller, 3 buttons A, B, C. They all jump. That's what you do. They're all jump, and then he can curl into a ball when he's moving. So there's no spin dash. You would have to already have momentum to spin. That's kind of how he moves. And like, you know, like as we said at the beginning, like he can move up and down these slopes and go through loop-de-loops and jump and, you know, and all this stuff. How do you feel about like the movement? Like, what did you like the way he controlled? Do you like level design aside? Do you feel like he played well?
I want to say before I share my opinion is that I am a terrible video game player normally, and one of my worst genres that I just always struggle with is just like platform. Anything where I have to like jump from one spot to the other and not fall in the lava, I'm going to struggle. I'm going to fall in the lava at least 3 times before I figure it out. So keep that in mind when I say that this game I feel like had moments where it felt finicky, where I felt like it felt slippery, where I felt like there's one part where you have to there's like swinging platforms, and like I would land on one and then like I would fall off because like I landed on it so quickly, and then like I overcompensated, or I felt like I was slipping off, and then I just fall off and I die, and then I'm pissed. You know, and then I realized that like it was mostly my doing, where I had to, once I get on there, stop completely, just don't touch anything, and then once the swinging platforms connect, I can walk across. I don't need to jump.
Yep. I think I know exactly where you're talking about too. It's in Marble Zone at the bottom of like Act 3 or something.
Yeah, fuck that. I hated that a lot until I figured it out.
You can skip that part.
I know. Yeah.
But I bet that whisper was actually really loud. I'm sorry.
But no, I would say the movement was finicky. It felt like every other like older platformer I've played. Really? Like Mario. I think I have the same struggles in Mario, where like I'm overcompensating a lot just because I haven't played too much of Mario. So I think that had something to do with it. It felt slippery, but like that could also just be mostly me, I guess.
I liked, so to say my gameplay style, I am pretty good at platformers. I am pretty good at Mario. I think there is a weird difference between the people that play Mario and they don't realize, the best way to play is if you just hold the run button down the whole time. And then like people like me that always hold the run button down, like there's a weird like sense of like, if you're always at max momentum, it's easier to control because you always know the rate in which you're moving than it is if you're always in these fluctuating, increasing and decelerating kind of stuff. That's where I think Sonic struggles, is when you are trying to land on something that's moving and you're already moving pretty fast and you're trying to slow down in the air and it's like landing on them. Like you said, like I also had to learn to like, just stop, don't move. Okay, now you can go. No, stop, don't move. You know what I mean? Just take your time.
Which is like what the opposite of
I think this game has a problem with of taking your time.
Yeah.
Like there are back and forth ideas behind of like, the game is always presented to you in marketing, the game itself, and even the fact that Naka initially designed this as the way it is you're supposed to go fast through these levels because that's the idea. But his idea is also, if you were to go fast through Mario because you played it a lot, that does not gel well with it's my first time playing the level and I'm told to go fast. Just the idea of this all. I'm encouraged to go really fast. Why am I dying all the time? It's because they actually kind of want you to go slow until you learn it, but it's not actually like
marketed that way. Honestly,
I think it's marketed correctly to sell the game, but I don't think it's like told like, hey, try to go. It's not encouraged to go fast once you know what you're doing. You know what I mean? Because you don't know what you're doing. That's the way Sonic has always been. It's always struggled from day one onward of like, your first time through is going to be the most painful thing, and you're going to try to have fun until you know the level.
But that's the thing, is like, that's why I think it's actually bad marketing. If you tell me, buy this game, you get to go fast, and you should go fast, and I do that, and I'm dying, I'm just going to put the game down and be like, well, what the... No, I thought this was... You know what I mean?
I thought this, yeah.
If you told me Flappy Bird, you actually have to stop moving and not flap. I'd be like, what the fuck? You call it Flappy Bird.
Wow, you pulled out Flappy Bird of all fucking things.
That's what I thought of. I don't know. I'm just like trying to think of a game where like.
I mean, that works. It's just interesting.
It was the first
It's
game
a
I
game
thought
you
of.
can't even get anymore. You can't even get that game.
Rest in peace,
It
Flappy
made him
Bird.
so much money that
Doodle
he was
Jump?
like embarrassed. Fuck Doodle Jump.
I actually like Doodle Jump more than Flappy Bird though.
Well, good. Then you can play Sonic Jump on your iPhone right now because it's essentially what it is. um, so to me, I was actually able to get through the game pretty easily if I like kind of kept myself patient and didn't think of it like
How
when I
many
was a
hours do
kid.
you think it would take you? If maybe an hour. If it was, I'm just guessing for you. Like, would it be like an hour?
An hour, yeah.
Really?
play
It took
through-
me like 7 hours to get through it.
I played through all the levels several times. I actually very recently, after making all my notes for this episode, I just played through it again just to try, and I wasn't able to do it all in one go. I definitely like there are moments where obstacles accidentally squish you when they shouldn't, or I'm jumping into something that's moving up and I'm squished.
Yeah,
Like-
I had a couple of moments for that. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, especially like when it was during like a level that I was already struggling with, some shit like that would happen. I'm like, are you serious? And that's when I took a break. That's why it took me 7 hours because I was like, I'm hungry. Let me go get something to eat. Now would be a good time to take a break. So let me go
I would
watch something on
breeze through
YouTube.
Green Hill. I would breeze through Marble Zone, for the most part, easily, without dying. So then Spring Yard would pull something where like the thing that's supposed to squish you is now moving back up. I'm gonna run and roll under it. Now I'm dead, and it happened to me 3 times in a row. On that level, I'm like, well, I'm stopping
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Next level, please. Like the fun's gone. But I think I think just limitations of the hardware and finickiness of how the game works. But
Get good, gamer.
I think 1 hour I could beat it. To me, I was able to beat them all until Scrap Brain Zone, where I was like, I can't beat any of these fucking levels. Until I came back later, I'm like, no, I can beat them.
It's
They
one of those.
fucking
I think
suck.
we're, even though like you're definitely a better player than me, but I feel like we're both also the same type of people. Where like if we're struggling, we need to just step
Go
away,
Yeah.
sleep on it, and then like you'll get it the first or second try next time you do it.
Yep. I
Every
don't know how
time.
many times it's happened to me where I'm like, I keep dying to this boss in Kingdom Hearts 2, and then like the next morning I beat it first fucking try.
Yep.
It's like, damn.
And
just
I have a
in
lot of
lockstep.
gaming experiences where that was the case. Where I'm like,
Yeah.
fuck this boss. Happened to me like 5 times in Nier Automata.
But in the moment, you're never going to be like, I should just stop because I know I'm going to get it tomorrow. It's always like, well, no, if I do it one more time, I'm going to get it right, But it's all just practice for the big game the next day. That's
Yes.
how I think about it. So, yeah, when Sonic is running around and jumping and rolling, besides enemies, which we'll talk to in their zones, in their respective zones, there are also different hazards like spikes and lava and whatnot, but there's also beneficial things. There are rings you can pick up. When you get 100 of them, you get an extra life, just like in Mario. But unlike Mario, the counter doesn't reset back to 0. It actually stays at 10, 101, 102, 103, and that adds points at the end of the level. There are item monitors, or like TVs, that can contain either 10 rings. It's always 10 rings in Sonic 1. A one-hit shield, which I always lost very quickly.
yeah.
But like I wouldn't get hit forever when I didn't have a shield. But when they gave me the shield, I was
Like-
way more prone to getting hit. And I know that they didn't. It's not like they added, like they made the hitbox big or anything.
It just-
Hitbox is the same.
Yeah. There was a couple of moments where like I went out of my way because I knew where there was one. I get
Yeah.
it, and then immediately I die to the thing that I never or I lose it to the thing
Yeah.
I never lose it to or never touched
Exactly.
to begin with, and I'm like,
Exactly.
that was a waste of 30 seconds. Sonic needs to go fast.
There are also speed shoes, which make Sonic go really fast, and it plays a sped up version of the song, which future games didn't really do. They played a jingle just for the speed shoes.
They
Sonic
do
Mania
that
does
in
this.
Sonic Team Racing, whatever. We say that every time we don't remember the title. They have like a song when you have the boost. Your team has the
Yeah.
boost. There's like a completely new song, and then like it goes back to whatever the
The
racetrack song it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird that we don't do that. We should do that again. Developers, do that again. Let's do that.
I know.
Go fast,
Speed up the music. Exactly. You can also get invincibility, which has its own jingle, or an extra life, which is a little picture of Sonic. And then there are also checkpoints.
Honestly, the picture of Sonic looks more like the ice cream version of Sonic.
Yes. Yeah. He should have ate one of those in the movie.
That would have been great. Hey, there's still a
They
sequel.
they
There's still a
brought they
sequel.
brought
We
the
got time.
Spider-Man one in the Spider-Man movie. The very beginning of Into the Spider-Verse, mentions the fucking popsicle thing. So clearly, that brand is okay with making fun of how shitty the things look. So it's the one drooping gumball,
Sonic, this is yeah. Sonic's
Exactly.
meltdown.
I always picked the Sonic.
Of course.
SpongeBob was a second choice, but I was always Sonic.
Wow, look at you.
I know. There are about 3 or 4 points in each level. There's a checkpoint. Sometimes they're like in weird spots. Sometimes they're basically on the path you would hit them. And then the special stages, which I don't know if you really tried to go to them. I knew all about them, so I didn't really give a shit too much. I knew Supersonic wasn't in this game, but there's special stages.
Supersonic.
At the end of Acts 1 and 2 of any of the stages, out of any of the zones besides Scrap Brain Zone, which there's a fun reason why, if you have 50 rings at the end, a giant ring pops up after the signpost. If you jump through it, you get transported to a special stage. It's a rotating thing where I realized way too late that you can actually control Sonic left and right. I thought I was literally just pressing the jump button for the longest time until I learned that. I watched someone do it in a video, and I'm like, wait a second, I can do that?
One of the first times I got in the special zone, I was able to
Get the Chaos Emerald?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I never got it again.
The first one I think is not bad to get, but the other ones, there's 6 or 7 different layouts. No, just 6, because there's 6. This game only has 6 Chaos Emeralds instead of the usual 7 we would see later on. But 6 Chaos Emeralds. There's a special stage for each. It is weird in that if you get the first Chaos Emerald on your first time you play it, the second special stage you get will be the second one. Let's say you don't get that one like me and you fall through the exit, which they fucking like to just hide on you. You can't see them until you're basically already too late.
Yeah.
You lose. The next special stage you get is the third special stage. They go in that order instead of like you're always doing 2. So I was prepared for the second one again. I'm like, wait a second. I'm not in that one. I don't know where I am. But if you get all of the Chaos Emeralds and beat the game, you get an ending of Sonic with the Chaos Emeralds.
Wow.
I know. Which is just a static screen. If you beat the game and you don't get all the Chaos Emeralds, Eggman will stand there taunting you, juggling the ones you didn't get, and it says try again. But
Yeah,
that's
I did get that. I did get
Yeah.
that, obviously, because we did the level select.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. Sonic 2 would introduce Supersonic, which is basically Dragon Ball Z Goku.
Supersonic.
I'm not going to say that.
I'm gonna say it every time you say it from now on.
Okay, so Supersonic
Yeah.
is in Sonic
Supersonic.
2. But yeah, so like the special stages I thought were okay. Whatever. But
Remind me a lot of I didn't play it, but I've seen it. Sonic Pinball, kind of like that aesthetic. Where I think maybe maybe that's where they got the inspiration from. Who knows?
maybe. I think it's called Sonic Spinball. Or if you read it
Sonic
with ADHD,
Spinballs.
it's Sonic's Pinball. But yeah, Sonic Spinball, yeah. I actually watched a speedrun of that, and that game is so broken. It's weird. But maybe, I guess because Yuji Naka maybe didn't program it, that's why. But yeah, so that's basically all there is to it in terms of the game. At the end of each Act 3, there's a boss. It's always Eggman in his flying robot doing different things. Later games, his robot would be different shapes and shit. Here it's always just the one thing, and the first one, has the ball and all that stuff. Like, and it is kind of funny that like whenever you get hit, he laughs, but he looks at you essentially at the TV, and he's like laughing at you, and it's like, I'm gonna get this guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Which I think makes Eggman has a lot of personality. I think. I don't know. What do you think about? So we basically mentioned everything in the game besides the zones. What do you think about like just the game itself?
You mean like whether I liked it or not, or just?
Yeah, I mean just like
Because I feel like it definitely reminded me a lot of, like I said, I played an old Sonic game on the Sega Genesis. I'm pretty sure it was because Tails was in the second one, right? Sonic.
yeah, and Chemical Plant was in the second one.
Yeah, so it is probably that one, and like it reminded me a lot of that. So like in a way, it kind of brought back some nostalgia without actually playing this game. So that's cool. But at the same time, like since I had so much struggles with it a lot of time, there was points where I'm like, fuck this game. Like, fuck Sonic. Like, why do I like Sonic?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
but I do think it just has a vintageness to it. And definitely, I think you could say it for what it like from what you've told me with the history and stuff. That I can see why it's still kind of an important game. Like, it definitely has things that like that I wrote some stuff down when we go through the zones where like I'm like, oh, I wonder if anyone's ever done this before prior to this. So there's some stuff in there that I found that I'm like, oh, I wonder if this was new. Maybe there was another game that they took it from that no one ever heard of, but Sonic made it popular. Maybe not popular, but brought it more to light, a mechanic or something that happens. And for a game that, because when I think of old games, I think that they're going to be very bare bones. There's a lot more going on in this compared to like when I think of Mario. From what time period it came from, I think
yeah.
in a way you could argue that this game, I can tell that this game probably was a little bit ahead of its time in some ways, and maybe like is influential on Mario and future Sonic games. And
it was
anything
influential
like
on Nintendo in some instances where they were like, people really like this idea. Let's just beat it with something else. It's like Donkey Kong Country was meant to beat Sonic. Which is also funny that you like Donkey Kong Country.
And I do love Donkey Kong Country.
And Yoshi's Island in a way too, because Yoshi's Island is also like a fast kind of platformer with momentum like that. But
I'll have to look into that one.
It's like the secret best Mario game.
Secret best?
Because you have a team that's like, hey, from like the Nintendo 64 is right around the corner. This is our last 2D game because apparently we're all going to be making 3D games from now on. Let's just make the best fucking 2D game ever. That's like a real band right there.
But yeah, I would say that I can appreciate this game. I don't know if I love this game. Maybe I like casually like it. Like if I watch someone else play it who's much better, I think I would enjoy it more. Me playing it, yeah. I'm like, there's maybe 3 stages that maybe I'd want to play again. And maybe I'd do the classic couch co-op thing where I'm like, oh, I died, your turn. You know,
your
like,
turn.
That might be more fun.
Yeah.
You know.
Which is kind of what we did with Sonic Forces.
Yes.
That game sucks.
That game sucks.
This game is definitely better than that game.
Yes, I will say that. That's I don't know if that's bad or good. I don't know, or I don't know. But yeah, I guess that's where I'm at with this game, where I liked it very casually. Like I don't know if I'll play this like again anytime soon. I'm sure I'll boot it up maybe if I'm really bored on an airplane and I don't want to play Witcher, because that's what originally when I got this game, I was on a flight and I played a little bit of it and then I got stuck in Marble Zone. I'm like, fuck this. Let me go back to Witcher, which is a much slower paced game where I can play Gwent.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that you didn't absolutely hate this game.
It's actually funny. Did you think I was going to absolutely hate this game?
Yes. Knowing you.
I do just like the classicness of this game. Like I said, when I think of Sonic, I think of his design in this in the first couple games, and I do like that Sonic, where I'm like, I don't own any, like, I actually do own like some Sonic socks, and I think it's classic Sonic on there, and I'm like, if I ever wanted to get Sonic merchandise, I'd want it to be this design. I don't really like the newer Sonic Forces design or any of that personally. For sure.
And it's funny, like in my youth, totally the Sonic Adventure and later design of him was totally my favorite. But
really?
going up now, I'm like, no, like I like classic Sonic. He looks better. He looks more fun. Like the intro to Sonic Mania is a cartoon of this style, and like Sonic's a little sassy bitch, and he's not actually as good as like, you know, he's almost slips and fall off an edge, and it wasn't, but he tries to play it off as cool. Like I like this design of Sonic. But it's funny that you bring up Mario. I read an interview in 2001, just after the Dreamcast is officially discontinued, and Sega is now going to be making games with Nintendo or for Nintendo systems. Eventually, they would make things for Xbox and PlayStation as well. But starting off, you know, Sonic Adventure 2 coming to GameCube right away, essentially. Like months later, came to GameCube. And then the first Sonic Adventure game was going to get a deluxe edition on GameCube as well. This interview is between, well, besides the person that's actually asking the questions, between Yuji Naka, who was working on Sonic Advance, the first game that would actually be for a Nintendo system, for the Game Boy Advance, and Shigeru Miyamoto, creator of Mario, Super Mario Brothers. And this is the first time they actually ever talked together, besides bumping into each other at a trade show where they were watching a panel of the guy that made a old RPG series called Ultima, and Miyamoto asked him if he actually thought this was interesting or not. um, I mean, the dude's name was Lord British, very weird, but yeah, that was his handle. This is the first time they ever talked to each other, and so the interviewer's asking them stuff about each other, and like, what's it like now to work on Nintendo? And Naka's like, it is actually great because I don't have to like try to help them enhance the features of their hardware. I can just focus on making a good game that I think is fun to play, And the interviewer asked Miyamoto what he thought of Sonic the Hedgehog, the first game. So what did you think when you first saw this? And Miyamoto said, well, around that time, there was a lot of games that tried to copy the run and jump aspect mechanics of Super Mario Brothers. And when Sonic came out, I always thought that this one was different. It was a little rough around the edges, he called it that, but there's a certain style and attitude about it that was endearing and was on another level than the other things Mario competed with. So he said, right away, I thought, this is a youthful team, because Naka is a lot younger than Miyamoto at that point, maybe by 10 years, I would imagine, around 10 years younger. This is a youthful team. They have ambition. They're making something that their peers aren't doing, but they're also doing what their peers are doing, but better. You know what I mean? Even though it's a youthful team and they don't have the experience that my guys had when we made Mario Brothers, but to extrapolate, that was his opinion on Sonic, which was interesting. I never really would have thought about what does the Mario man think about Sonic, but
yeah, I mean, it's just it is funny though now in hindsight that Sonic was born to compete with Mario, and then he winds up just being on the same platforms.
Now they go to the Olympics together.
Yeah, now they go. Oh, they're just chilling. They had beef early on, and then they realized, wait, why did we have beef?
Yep.
Let's go to the Olympics, bro.
My opinions on the game. Number one, I was actually surprised when I was really looking at this game and starting to play it, how few zones there were. There are only 6. If you don't count Final Zone, which is actually physically located in Scrap Brain Zone 2. It's physically located in there. So I don't count Final Zone as its own thing. It's just a boss. It's just 6 zones, 3 acts each. Later games would cut that down to 2 so they can make extra zones. But I'm like, wow, yeah, I get it. Green Hill Zone meme and joke, and that's the one they trot out all the time. I get it because that is iconic for Sonic, and I get that.
Because no one can get past that level, so everyone only plays that one.
Well, that's the only one. That's the only one people could beat easily.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
yeah. But I'm like, yeah, but I'm trying to think, what are the other classic levels? I'm like, oh yeah, I don't remember any of them because.
Besides the.
No, but from Sonic 1.
Oh, you're saying Sonic 1.
What are the ones that are also memorable from this? I'm like, they all kind of look the same.
I was going to say, Starlight reminds me a lot of Chemical Plant and parts. There's a lot of parts in these zones that I think wind up turning into some of the more classic ones we know later on, for sure. I don't think that's really a criticism too much. I don't know if you're saying it as that, but I would say that, if anything, it makes it feel more cohesive. Where there's some other Sonic games where you're now I'm in Mushroom Worlds. What? We went from Green Hill Zone to space.
I don't know, man. We went from Roman ruins to Pinball Land in Sonic 1. So
I guess I'm just saying. I'm saying colors and aesthetic. There was moments where I felt like it was more cohesive than other Sonic games. But
I will. I am with you there. I mean, Sonic 2 goes from basically Green Hill Zone 2, which is Emerald Hill Zone, to Chemical Plant, and they look very different. But same time, that also makes them more memorable in that sense too.
True, that's fair.
But yeah, I was like, wow, I remember Marble Zone because that was the one where I couldn't beat, or I could beat, but then I died immediately on Spring Yard Zone, which I didn't remember
because you lost
existed.
most of your lives.
Exactly, and then this is a brand new environment, and I don't know anything about how this zone works. I'm dead immediately. I feel like if you were to make a 2D Sonic game like this nowadays, and let's pretend Sonic Mania didn't exist, let's say Sega was and not uber fans that analyze these games, I feel like one thing that would be cool for you to do is the first time the player reaches a new zone, give them an extra life right away, or make it so that it's like an easy mode somehow where they take less damage or something, so that they get to
Imagine if
understand
this was like,
what the hell's going on.
I was thinking while I was playing this too, I was like, well, imagine if this was like a arcade game where like you need quarters and whatnot, and you would have to go like knowing me, I would be out of like $50, but just to beat this game, you know what I mean? To stay alive.
That's the Mega Play version.
Is that
Was the arcade? It was an arcade version of it,
Okay.
but we'll get to that in a second. Oh well, in a minute, in an hour, in 3 days. Yeah, but like to me, like I appreciate the fact that and Naka actually refers to in that interview with him and Miyamoto, the design of like, well, we look at it more of like an amusement park, as opposed to something that builds on each other all the time. It's like a cool, there's a new location, new attraction kind of a thing.
Okay.
Which I think makes it more memorable. I mean, like, again, like Sonic Generations whole thing was the zones, and they're memorable. You could try to do that with Mario, of like, oh, this one level in Mario 3 is very memorable. This one level in Mario 64, well, the 3D games, they're more memorable. When it's the 2D ones where they're all kind of sharing the same art styles, it's all just kind of like one big fun, but samey kind of group. But that's, I don't think it really works gameplay wise, where it's like, wow, I don't know how all of a sudden I'm bouncing off things and there's spikes, now I'm dead. We're like,
Yeah.
oh, this thing is moving, like I think it should wait. No, it's not. Oh my god, like, and you can't see too far ahead, and it's ugh. But overall, I enjoyed the game. I don't think I would have beaten it earnestly. Well, I don't think I would have beaten it if it not for this episode we were doing, and if it were not for the Sega Ages editions. Level select aside, I like the ring keep thing allowed me to beat the levels on the first try without dying, losing all my lives, because I was able to get hit and not be immediately fucked. You know what I mean? I was able to take another hit. Like, yeah, there are pits. Even in Green Hill Zone, there are pits, like you could just immediately die, but like you can get squished and immediately die from some hazards and or bullshit like that. But like, I would not have beaten this game, and I never did as a kid, if it were not for all these additions. So I think it definitely needed to be modernized, but I liked it overall. It's better than Sonic Forces. I will say that. So. Why don't we now move on to each of the zones? Let's jump over to Green Hill Zone. So first off, we have Green Hill Zone. I want to first talk about, when we do these zones, the enemies in them first, and then the actual zone itself. So the enemies in Green Hill Zone, we have Motobug, a ladybug-like enemy that just moves left and right. He's basically a Goomba from Mario. He's just there. If you did not jump over him or on him, you die, or you get hit. We have Chopper, a fish enemy that leaps up, and in some bridge sections. We have Crab Meat, a crab enemy that walks a short distance and then shoots little projectiles out of his claws that kind of like lob out and hit the ground. We have Buzz Bomber, a bee that zips into frame, shoots a projectile, and zips out. Sometimes they return.
Those guys.
I hate them.
Oh, really? I feel like they never really.
Oh man,
Hit
they
me
pop
too
up in
much.
Spring Yard Zone in one of the sections where you have to stand and wait for your elevator, and they always hit me there. And then last but not least, we have Neutron, a chameleon enemy that, depending on its color, either appears and shoots a projectile at you, or appears, jumps off its wall, and then kind of like shoots across the ground.
That one I felt like was pretty much pointless. Those never touched me.
Yeah,
Like,
and they were only in this one level, this one zone. Yeah, it is interesting. Like, right off the bat, Green Hill Zone has 5 enemies, and other zones only have like 2 or 3 sometimes.
but there's a lot
right
more,
off the bat.
I think in the other ones, there's a lot more environmental things that can hit you, which I think are worse. I'd rather there be 5 enemies sometimes. I think in some of the, especially in like Spring Yard has a couple of them. Labyrinth, I think, has way too many
ways of dying that aren't things, are enemies. Yeah
that I can destroy. Yeah.
I don't know. What did you think about the zone itself? All of Green Hill Zone. I have the level layouts, but to me, it's just like a super easy, like what you would want the first level to be if you're trying to get kids to convince themselves to keep your game and that they're having fun at all, is to make the first level easy.
So I
You
did.
got like,
I was gonna say I did play this at least. I mean, all three acts more than once for sure. Especially since I tried doing it without doing the stage select. I tried to see like how far I can go, and I usually get beat in Act 3 of Marble Zone. And after playing a whole bunch, I definitely got better at it. And there was one time I just stumbled into like a nice pattern in the very beginning. I think it was Act 1. If you like jump and jump like right away, like I got like 5 enemies in a row and like flew. It felt like I flew like pretty far, just from the momentum of killing all those guys. And I'm like, wow, that was cool. I thought that was a really cool moment for me while I was playing it that I didn't get from playing it the 10th time in a row. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Or the 9 previous times. So I thought that was
weird
cool.
little fun fact. You get more points the more enemies you hit without hitting the ground, and it goes up to like 12 or 15 enemies in a row, and you get like 10,000 points. And I'm trying to think, where is that even possible in this game? Can you hit 15
Well, I was saying, like
enemies in a
that pattern
row?
I got, I'm just like, oh, I bet you some speedrunner out there knows this pattern by heart and can
Yeah.
just zip through and then somehow land on a platform that you
I
can
will
jump
say,
over, all that cool stuff.
the Sega Ages port that we played has two challenge modes. One of them is a time trial for Green Hill Zone Act 1, and the leaderboard, I was able to do it in 28 seconds of really trying after a few times. 18 seconds is the record for this. And it's basically just like using the drop dash and pixel perfect precision on where they want to land and jumping the whole time. It's very
I doubt
interesting.
mine's even close to like. I think maybe I could do it under a minute, but that'd be.
I think it's very easy to do it under a minute for sure.
I'll have to try it next
but
time I play it.
yeah. There you go. Boot it up to the challenge mode. Yeah, like I like that they try to hide some of the power ups and stuff in plain sight, where it's like, oh, how do I get there? How do I get on top of this loop de loop where this extra life is? Well, I guess if I have enough speed here and I jump, and I guess there's an enemy here I could bounce off of. I could land there.
Isn't it like the
I like
first
that,
tree in Act 1? Isn't there like a.
has there's a spring in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, hidden inside. You can even see there's like rings floating above it. So if you were standing still, you could see the rings, and be like, oh, they hide a lot of monitors in the palm trees in Green Hill Zone. I like that they hide speed boots in Act 2. Like you have to go left instead of right if you drop down. There's a way to do it at the very beginning where you jump perfectly over some spikes to land down there, but they hide some speed shoes that allows you to zip through the level. Overall, I think Green Hill Zone wants you to have an easy time. It has very few like danger areas, and the enemies are mostly there to just be in the way, to be like, hey, hit me, hey, hit me, But I don't know. What about you overall?
I mean, it's classic. That was definitely my favorite level. I think it's because of, like you said, it's supposed to be easy. I wish all the levels were like this. I would totally be okay
Yeah.
with an easy Sonic game like this, where I'll just get better at like going through it quicker. I don't need there to be 50 million enemies. I mean, I feel like there is a lot of enemies in these 3 stages, but they're not hard enemies, so I'm not too worried about.
Yeah.
Like maybe I run into one every once in a while, and I'm like, what the fuck? But like, I'm okay because I get most of my rings back, as opposed to some of the other zones
And
that
there are
you
rings
play on.
everywhere.
Yes,
There are tons of rings.
when there's some zones that we play that later on we can talk about that. I feel like there was like none, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, give me something. Especially since
Yeah.
I know there's a boss coming up, and I don't have any rings. Come on,
Yeah, please. Let's move on to Marble Zone. The enemies here include Caterkiller, an enemy that inches along the ground, and he can only be damaged by his head, which I did not realize for quite a bit. That's what it takes.
Yeah, how do you like? I didn't know how to beat those, so I just avoided
You have
them.
to hit you hit the head. You can roll into them on the ground,
They
or you
killed
can
me plenty of
land
times
on
on
the
Marble
head.
Zone. Like there was one where like I got good at jumping over them, but there'd be that red button forget. I think it was Act 1 or Act 2, where like you hit a red button, it shoots you back, and like if I didn't, I never killed them, so I'd always jump over them, and I always had to stop myself. But there was times when like I took a break, came back, I jump over them, like yeah I did, and then I forget there's a red button because I'm just trying to go as fast as possible. Then I get hit back, and then
A spring.
yeah, or a spring.
Yeah.
Yeah, I look like a button to me.
Yeah. I just want to make sure the audience knows that.
Yeah, the spring.
I know
It'll
what you're
hit me
saying. I know
back
what you're saying.
into this Pokemon ripoff here.
It's actually very funny that you mentioned that. On a collection of Sega games on the 3DS, Sonic's on the cover, and he's drawn by the Pokemon artist. So there's an official Pokemon essential right.
I mean, I do like how Caterpillar looks. I just say it does remind me of a Pokemon, so I'm like a Pokemon ripoff.
Names too, and essentially, their Buzz Bombers return here. Both of these enemies are above ground, on the Roman ruins kind of walkways, and we have a new enemy called Bat Brain. He drops from the ceiling, flies in the direction he saw the player. If he doesn't hit anyone, he goes back to the ceiling and then tries again. They're basically just there to be in the way, but there are some moments where it's like, okay, I'm trying to avoid these spikes, trying to avoid the lava. Fuck, there's a bat in the air. There's now something in the air I have to avoid or like just kill it. You know what I mean? But yeah, Caterpillar took me a while before I realized, oh yeah, I guess there's spikes on its back. I guess if I looked at it, I guess I would have realized that you shouldn't hit the spikes. But
I just avoided them. That's what.
Yeah,
that was my best bet.
I think it's this. So what I say overall for the game, actually do think I might prefer the 3 acts to a zone approach that this game does than the 2 acts that the other games do.
I would agree.
Just in the sense that I think it's, especially looking at the level layouts, it's very obvious. And by the way, these pictures for the level layouts aren't as detailed. They don't have enemies. They don't have like a lot of the floating platforms in them anymore. I grabbed all these from an awesome website that every Sega fan should go to called Sega Retro, or Sonic Retro rather. sonicretro.org. Is just super full of information.
I was going to say, these are really nice and make me see more about, like, now that I'm like, I've played it enough, I'm just like, oh, that was super difficult there, but I maybe could have went
but
there.
Look how short this level looks.
Yeah, or how short it looks. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but to me, Marble Zone especially illustrates the 3-act structure, like in a movie, where like Act 2 is more complex than Act 1, and Act 3 is even more complex than Act 2. Act 3 has 2 entrances to the underground, and the first one is a little bit faster and it has less danger to it than the second one. But like the first one is very simple. You go down, you do an S shape through it, you pop back up. Act 2 has you go up and down again. And it has you go through a lot of sections where you're standing on a block, moves through slowly through the lava.
Yeah, Act 2, that's what I was talking about with the one spring is not Act 2. Like right, if you look at right in the middle there, there's that like long, after like that long river of lava.
Yeah.
There's 2 caterpillar boys there, caterpillars, and you have to jump over them. Then there's that spring there, and I always hit it and went up going back. I get so mad because I feel like the whole part there on Act 2 is a little slow, like for Sonic's. Like I mean, that's the main complaint with Sonic and all Sonic
compared
games
to Green Hill Zone.
Yeah,
this is.
I was like, what the
stop
hell?
And go.
Like I have to stop, and then like it got more of felt like more like a chore when I started losing a lot and being like, okay, gotta go through this section again. And then like I'm rushing, and then I start dying or losing coins or
for sure
my bubble.
Actually, one thing I want to point out too about Marble Zone is that the checkpoints are handled a lot differently. They actually put them out of the way. In Green Hill Zone, they're pretty much where they're on the path.
It did feel like it was out of the way. Like there was points where I beat the level and I'm like, did I not get?
Was there any? Because if you look at Act 2, on the middle, so where you come back up to the outside, if you went left, there's a checkpoint there. So they put one there. It's like out of the way. So if you didn't go that way, because it is kind of hard to jump up there, it's very steep, and you went right, you're going to be losing a lot more progress if you die. There are parts where it's like very simply like, oh yeah, you can see it when you jump up on this platform. You can see it to your left, and obviously the correct way is to go right. So obviously no, but they do hide a couple of them, and I want to point out Act 3, besides having 2 entrances, which is cool, has a gigantic shortcut, which I don't know if you found. I actually did find it, but I found it. I found the exit first and not the entrance. So you look at Act 3, you can see in the middle that dark square of brick.
Yeah.
So on the left side of that horizontal section, you see, blue space. There's 2 metal spike things that jump down in the level. You can actually, it's an invisible wall. You can just walk straight through it, go all the way inside that square is an extra life, and you pop out on the other side. So you can skip all of that. You can see right now, you can skip all of that if you take that shortcut. And once you learn that, it's like, oh wow, I never need to play this bottom section ever again, and I get an extra life out of it. But I found the exit first and went through the beginning. But I do.
Now you say that, yeah, I think I did find the exit as well. I don't think I.
Because it's like hidden underneath.
Because now you say there's an extra life. Yeah, I do remember finding an extra life and be like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
This will help.
Obviously, Act 3, I think, builds upon Act 2's complexity. But I think one aspect of it that I actually appreciate in terms of it's more difficult than the last is towards the end. And this applies to if you even if you do the shortcut, there's a part where you're basically crossing lava once, and then you go up and you have to jump over these pits essentially. But if you fall through the pit, you land back down into an earlier section of the level. So it's like, hey, if you fuck up, it's not death. It's you have to redo this now. And I think that complexity is actually kind of cool. But that's Marble Zone for me. I think overall, this zone is constantly punishing you and making you lose your rings if you're actually trying to play it like Green Hill Zone, which God forbid you do. Like, I think that's what you would expect.
Yeah, I think maybe this one should have been. I think either they should have moved this one. I do feel like that's my one critique of the game too, as well, is that after Green Hill Zone, there is such to me,
a disconnect,
just a bigger skill jump where it's like, okay, you had your fun. No, this is where the real game begins. Like,
yeah.
What? No, like, let me get, like, okay, you can step up the difficulty, but it doesn't need to be this. So I feel like either they need to make this easier or add another zone, even if it was something shorter, just to get my feet wet with like lava and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
So it's funny you mentioned another zone earlier. There is some evidence to suggest, and the level select on the American version kind of suggests this, that this was not the order of the levels. Labyrinth Zone was supposed to be the second one initially, but that one they deemed harder.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe not
Marble Zone,
especially Act 3. That the boss there, I never beat it.
Yeah,
so I think that would have been shitty.
For me, overall, that's what I think about, just Marble Zone. I think it's an okay level that makes you sit and wait. I guess I would much rather that they did it this way instead of having the first instance of stop and go be much later in the game, where it does feel like, wait, all of a sudden, at least the all of a sudden happened early on, because it's kind of like training you in a sense. Though I think it could be easier if they removed a lot of the lava and like, okay, yeah, you fell. You can, instead of losing any damage or rings, you just have to go back and jump back up, or
I think
climb the ladder out of the pit.
I think less lava would have helped a ton, because that was my biggest like frustration, is like, oh, I was just going too fast on these swinging platforms, or I was trying to dodge this enemy and then like, oh, now I'm there. There's also the part where you have to like sit on the block as it's floating through lava. There were some moments where you're able to like only have to be on it like once, then you can kind of, if you're good at jump, you can skip. But there's other moments where I'm just like waiting, and then like I'm getting impatient. Or like there was that one, I think it was on Act 3, where like you're not supposed to jump on the first time it goes up. There's a second time you go up where it'll actually get to you. And I'm like, fuck you.
And if you don't do it at all, you just have to run through the lava back before you die, because fuck you.
Yeah.
Yeah. We taught you to not go the first time. God forbid that you take that lesson and see if you shouldn't go the second time either,
Yeah.
But so let's move on to the third zone, Spring Yard Zone. I think that this is where, now I didn't realize it in Spring Yard Zone, but I'm going to bring it up now. Overall, there is a a pattern with the zones of I call them skybox levels and cavern levels, where it's like Green Hill Zone and Spring Yard Zone, and then Starlight Zone, as we'll talk about, are much more speed, but much more importantly, multiple paths to get through the levels. Rather as zones like Marble Zone, Labyrinth Zone, and obviously Scrap Brain Zone are like, no, this is the one way you go through this level. Marble Zone, you only go through it the one way. Besides the shortcut, in shortcuts in Act 3, there's only one path. Green Hill Zone has multiple ways, maybe just because it's open-ended, and Spring Yard Zone, too, is like that as well. And I don't know if you realize that, too, but, like, it's like a back and forth between fun levels and patient levels.
Yeah, I would say that if you took away Green Hill Zone, I think Spring Yard has some fun moments. Like I know the springs themselves could be kind of annoying, but I actually kind of like that.
But they don't kill you.
It felt like I was moving quick still with the springs, even though sometimes it would shoot me in a weird spot, or like I needed to hit a button and like I keep having to go fall down and jump again. But
also, the enemies in I'm sorry.
I was gonna say like the dashers that they have, like the colored dashes, I thought those were platforms and they were timed.
Same.
For like 10 seconds. I'm like, oh wait, this is just background. Whoops, I'm an idiot.
Yeah. Because I think they do that in Casino Night Zone or whatever, the later pinball stages in future Sonic games do it. But in Spring, I almost called it the Scrapyard Zone. Spring Yard Zone, our enemies are Crabmeat and Buzz Bomber. They return again. As well as Roller, a new enemy that folds into a ball.
I call them Droidekas.
Yeah, kind of. They mostly follow Sonic at the lower sections of the level. Like if you stop, then one like pops up behind you, essentially. And then there is a Motobug-like enemy called Spikes. He appears here, and they move along the ground like Motobug. But their just thing is you can't hit them from the top because of the spikes. You have to hit them from the front, essentially. But they don't really chase you. They just kind of like move left and right, and they're done. But I don't know. What did you think about the various acts here in this level or in this zone?
Like I said, I think this was one of the funner zones. I felt like this one kind of rewarded me more for exploring at moments compared to the other ones where, Marble Zone didn't really have as many paths, like you said, compared to this one. So I guess that's kind of naturally it's going to feel more rewarding. But I never felt like, oh, if I go this way for a little bit, I'm going to be punished. But then I feel like they kind of do at some points
with the elevators.
Yeah.
I hated those. I call them elevators. The blocks where you have to wait for this to go up, then move on the next one. Wait for it to go up, then move on to the next one. I hated those.
Yeah. But I enjoyed this level. It's one of my, I guess, favorite levels of the game overall. Now looking at it from a bird's eye view, I guess you could say, or rather a distant view.
A horizon view.
It seems much smaller than when I was playing it.
For sure.
It felt so much bigger than before. Like I'm looking at Act 3 and that big pit in the middle where you can fall down, right? And if you have enough momentum, you can swing up. And there was like a little if I remember correctly, there's like a little secret like area there where you can get, I think, an extra life or something. I was able to get that a couple times. I thought that was fun. So I think that's my favorite part right there. And was the that's right. This was in the boss fight. This one was the one where I'm trying to remember what that fight was. Now I'm trying to think.
I think he removes platforms.
Yes, that one took me a couple tries, but I did get it. It wasn't too bad. I would say it's up until this point is the most difficult. Eggman.
Yeah, because Green Hills is just here's a pendulum. Marble Zone was just I'm gonna put this platform on fire. Now this one's on fire. And this one's like, hey, I'm gonna take stuff away from you. But I think that this zone was more fun than Marble Zone for sure. I like the fact that they hid platforms seemingly way out of the way, like right away on Act 1. If you go up if you take the spring and puts you up the ramp, if you hold left, you can land on this platform that gives you invincibility, and speed
Yeah.
shoes like right away. You know what I mean? I hate the elevators a lot. Uh, Weird fun fact: all of those like bumper balls that just bump you off, they give you 10 points each for 10 times,
I was
and
gonna
then they
say
don't
there
give you
was one
points
point where
anymore.
I feel like I hit it a million times and they kept giving
Yeah.
me points. So
They stop giving you points after a while. I do think it's weird that randomly you'll see the words cope
I was gonna
up,
ask you about that. Do
on,
you know
and
what that
CPU. No idea. No idea. It's weird.
is? This maybe supposed to be like? See,
Cope.
I didn't know if
The hell does
like because
that
there's
mean?
some moments where like in Starlight where you can it's like a city or whatever in the background.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe like that's what it's trying to be. It's like a billboard sign in the distance or something. I don't know,
I
but
think
then the fact that
so.
it says CPU on, I'm like, are we in a computer, like a big computer or something? Like that is weird. If anyone
Yeah.
knows what the coat means, please let us know in the comments.
And that's the first one you see, and you see it basically right away. Cope. Like, oh yeah, just deal with it. We're gonna bounce you around a bunch of times. Cope.
Yeah, or
I
tweet us.
guess.
Sorry, when I say comments, it's like only YouTube.
Yeah. Tweet at us at Sonic Movie Show, if you know. But yeah, I mean, like, I like the fact um, that it's much more just straightforward and bouncy. The hazards are just here to fuck you up, like bounce you around, not necessarily like punish you. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you're gonna fall down a pit and just have to come back out again. But I'd rather it be that than you didn't notice that there was lava ahead. Oh,
Or
fuck
it's just
you,
an
man.
endless pit.
Yeah.
Oh, you're dead.
Um. Yeah.
How'd you not know?
I think. I think. Well, number one, Act 3 also is the first real instance of like a stretch of bottomless pit towards the end, where like if you don't land on these floating platforms, which they're not in this image, unfortunately, these scans aren't super detailed. It's just the basic level layout. You actually need to make multiple platforming jumps because if you fail, I mean, if you land on spikes, you can jump off them, unless you don't have any rings and you're dead. But like a pit, no, you're dead. So I guess it's the first like real kind of challenge in that sense of like you need to do this perfectly just to make it.
I did
In
fall down
general.
there once, and I'm like, fuck. But once I knew it was
Um,
down there, I played it a little bit more careful because before I was kind of just running through it and like, let me get to Eggman.
I will say though, uh, for a zone called Spring Yard, and being a pinball based in the sense that like we know that later Sonic games would have more pinball type stuff, and this is clearly like the first stage in that kind of evolution. It weirdly doesn't have that much of a kinetic feel to it, and I think that's mainly because they are points where they're like, no, there is no alternate path. You need to go down these elevators. You need to, and it just stops it. It's weird that like, I could see that coming from a Marble Zone type of layout, but for here it's supposed to be multiple paths. It is weird that it's like, nope, you're waiting now. You
If
need
you
to
look at
wait
Act
now.
3, it's pretty linear. If
Yeah,
you really like, especially after the midpoint, you have to go through that tunnel. You can go up and above, or you just keep going straight. And like I kept going straight, which was much harder. So eventually, I'm like, let me go up, and I felt that was much easier, at least to me, on Act
yeah.
3 there. So
You notice in Act 2 that there's actually two exits. If you're able to do this ramp at the end of Act
oh
2 and
no,
jump at the apex, you land at a slightly higher one. There's just a bunch of rings that they coat the ground with.
gotcha.
Yeah, it's just interesting. And a future re-release that is not the one we played has a third exit for the stage because they're like, fuck it, why not? But so that's Spring Yard. I feel like it's weirdly lifeless. Like it's full of energy, but it feels like lifeless energy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I didn't really get that as much. Maybe because I guess I enjoyed the springs and stuff. Like I wish more Sonic levels are like that, where it isn't punishing me, or like I'm not just a random one that can get launched to a third level up top. That if I know to go that way, like
Yeah,
I like that. Like
that's fair.
it can bounce around everywhere. It's like a bouncy house. I'm a little kid, so
Yeah, I mean, I would much rather 2D Sonic levels be like this, where it's not necessarily pits and hazards that punish you, but more of like You just need to try it again. You know what I mean? Just try it again. You know,
Yeah,
you didn't get it up
I
this
think
time, but
that
try it again.
is one way I think that like they can make it feel faster too, where you're not faster, but just like you just said, I shouldn't be punished for not knowing that there was a pit. I don't care how many times I played it. You know what I mean? Especially if you're doing this without the level select and you're trying to go through it in one go.
Oh man, yeah, for
That's
sure,
BS.
for sure. But let's move on to our fourth zone. We're halfway through the zones. Labyrinth Zone. The enemies here include
David
Burrowbot.
Bowie.
Yes. Yeah, actually, I think I'm wearing a Labyrinth movie T-shirt right now. Burrowbot is a drill-nosed enemy with an odd behavior. So it waits beneath the ground, and it jumps out when you approach it. It randomly jumps again if you get close, and sometimes just seemingly just because it feels like it. And it mostly chases the player within an area. But there is some weird behavior to it. So a lot of Labyrinth Zone's layout that's not in water is very much blocky up and down, not smooth slopes. And so the programming for it is trying to make it jump up these spots. But more often than not, I'll see it just move horizontally into a wall and then just appear on top of the wall as if nothing happened. Weird little thing about it that I noticed. I think it's way too complex an enemy than this game can handle. But there's Jaws, a fish enemy that basically just swims left and right underwater. And then there is a new enemy called Orbinaut, a floating mass of 5 balls, 4 which are spiked and they shoot at you.
Those kind of suck.
Yeah, I hated those for sure. I'm going to throw this out here, and I don't think you're going to agree with me, just of comments you made. This is my favorite zone.
I didn't beat it, so
Labyrinth Zone.
I just instinctively, I just cannot say.
I think that for a water level in 2D Sonic games, this one is way more fair than the future ones get, which I understand is a bit unfair to say in this episode now, but there's a lot of bubble spots, like a lot of them.
I did write that
which
down.
I think makes it...
That I wrote Act 1 as soon as I saw water, I knew I was in trouble, because that's another thing I struggle with, is like I'm already terrible at platform games. Don't slow me down in water, and then also give me a timer that like, oh, you don't do it fast enough, you're dead. Oh no.
Yeah.
Like, and I do appreciate there was more than enough bubbles. At almost like every like point where you have to drop or whatnot. Like I'm like,
yeah,
like fuck. I'm like, oh no, there's like 5 down here. I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm good.
Yeah.
Maybe the enemies, like the 5-ball guy.
Orbinaut. Yeah,
like maybe he'll be there watching the bubbles, and I'm like, okay, it's not gonna be that easy, but I feel like that was more, like you said, fair. I do appreciate that.
For sure. I will say this is my favorite music in the game. I love this zone's music quite a bit. Act 1, and if you notice, if you pull up the image, there is a huge shortcut that lets you skip more than half of the level. And I was never able to get it. If you can jump up top, you then just like get sucked through a current through that wave.
Yeah.
But like if you look right before that part, there is a big drop down and then a horizontal, like it's almost if they cut a square out. That's lined with spikes, and that area is underwater. I can't for the life of me make that jump. So I think maybe you have to bounce off a couple enemies to get up there. Regardless, it's very tricky and very tough. I was never able to do it. I watched a...
I was gonna say find a speed run of it.
Yeah, well, it's funny. The credits for the game show Sonic going through that long wave tunnel, being sucked through. That's where he's holding on to a pole that breaks. They do that in later Sonic games. I didn't realize that they did in this one until I saw it in the credits. I'm like, wait a second, they do it here too? It's in this shortcut I can't get to. But I don't like the conveyor belt stuff, where you have to wait on a platform to hit a switch. I hate the conveyor belts. Act 2 introduces like a little waterfall section, which is kind of nice. Overall, it's just a bit more complex. It has like if you didn't get the wave thing, the shortcut in Act 1, Act 2 makes you do one. So I think that combined with the waterfall thing where you slide down is more of like a set piece. I think that's cool. Of like, oh, here is kind of your attraction, your amusement park type of stuff. Sonic sliding down, and again, just there's a lot of bubbles and stuff. And I think Act 3 is where it's like extremely complex. It starts off with like a puzzle. Like it loops endlessly.
I was gonna ask because like how long it took you to realize it was looping.
A while.
I did it for like a good 30 seconds, and I'm like, whoa, wow, like this is interesting choice. Like, is this like supposed to be like almost like a cutscene where like, wow, Sonic's going real deep in the earth or whatever. Then I realized like, oh, I can still jump. So I started jumping and just seeing what happened because I did see like a platform. So I jumped and I finally got it. I'm like, oh. And then when I died, I'm like, okay, I'm back here. Do I jump on that? Yes. And then there was that one other one that you can jump on to get a bubble there or whatever you want to call it. And I was going to ask, do you know of any games before this that's done something like that?
So if you look at the map, the level layout, you can see that it's just one left waterfall and one right. So basically what this does is a scroll warp where once you hit the bottom of the level, you pop up at the exact top part of that horizontal section.
I figured it was something like that, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't, but they do it in such a good way that I didn't realize it was literally one left and one right. I thought it was multiple for each, but you're going really fast. I have a feeling that this was done in previous platforming games, or just games in general where they use that as a trick. But I don't think I've ever seen it done where it's like an illusion. Like this is meant to be an illusion. You're not supposed to know that it does this, I don't think.
Yeah, I was gonna say like like you said, it was only one right and a left. I thought it was two.
Yeah,
two rights, two lefts. So that's interesting as well. But yeah, I've never played even like I'm trying to think of a modern game where like unless it's like a game where like
I think it's just because they don't need to
or something. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of a scenario where you would use it. But I just thought that was an interesting choice for a game like this. I was just very puzzled by it. I was like, I don't know if I like this or I hate this, but I just find it interesting that I'm like, I wonder if this was the first. I'm sure someone's done in what you just said, where like it's like almost like a copy paste, or it's bringing you up immediately in that frame, but you don't see it, and you're doing it over again. But I'm just wondering if any other game before this was actually like, I wonder where that idea came from. Like, I want to know, like, oh yeah, this was from this obscure Nintendo game or something, you know.
In any case, like I said, I don't think I've ever seen this done where the purpose is to trick you into thinking it's endless.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure this has happened, but like it's communicated to you of like, in order to get to the secret area down here, you need a warp from the top. You know what I mean? Like you would see it ahead of time. But this definitely gives like a very convincing illusion. And if you notice towards the end of Act 3, they do it again, so it looks like you're always going up. You're like, you see like on the right, like it just warps you back up, and then you have the boss fight with Eggman. So it looks like you're always going up to get there. It's just a really long stretch of going up. But Act 3,
that was the part where I can't get past. So I got all the way up to like, now I'm looking at it, I'm like, maybe I was kind of close at one point. But even when I had one, because I tried this one multiple times, like this is the only one I really couldn't beat. Or I mean, I beat all the other ones, but maybe I only beat it once. Some of the ones I was struggling with, I'm like, okay, I'm not doing that again. But this one, I tried multiple days, sleeping on it, coming back, and there was one I did. I think it was yesterday. I'm like, okay, this last one I haven't beat yet. Let me just try it, and like I went through it perfectly. I didn't take any damage, nothing, and I got to that part where you have to jump up, and like there's too many. I call them the blood shooting guys. Look like they're shooting drops of blood at me.
Yeah,
I think they're supposed to be fireballs, but they're also as fireballs.
The sound effect does not sound like a fire.
That's what I'm saying. It reminds me of like blood or like some sort
there's
of
a viscosity
poison
to it
or something to it. So there's that, and then the little spikes that like protrude out randomly. Well, I know they're not random, but they feel random almost when you're trying to go quickly.
Yeah, little like spear things.
Yeah, the spears. Like there's one point where I got about halfway up, and like I got hit with the spear. I'm like, okay, I'm fine. Like, just don't panic. Then the water was already above me, so I'm like, I just need to kind of move quickly here, but not move too quickly. And I got there, and then I got hit by a random, like, as I was jumping over a spike, of course, one of the blood guys shot. Like, just terrible time, and I just couldn't do it. And I'm like, and then, of course, I had the checkpoint, and, like, I had no rings. And there really isn't, they don't give you any rings at the checkpoint.
Yeah, it's very, very light on the rings for Labyrinth Zone, for sure.
So I was kind of disappointed with that, where I'm like, come on, give me, like, yeah, it does give me, like, the bubble there, but, like,
The shield.
the shield, besides that, that's it.
Yeah.
There's no rings. I can't get them off enemies. I can't. So I have to basically do it without getting hit more than twice, assuming that I already died once. So that was frustrating.
I went through all of Labyrinth Zone without losing any lives. And I thought it was a very, I'm not bragging, but like, I thought it was a very chill with the music and like interesting, slow pace. I forgot that this was about going fast. This game was about going fast for this level. Like, I was having fun. But then I get to the Eggman fight where you're basically just chasing him up a thing, which I thought, I'm like, okay, wait. When I learned that the thing was a puzzle at the beginning, I'm like, oh, this was a puzzle. It was waiting for me to do this. Okay, so it's looping or something. My thinking was, when I got to the Eggman fight, this whole thing is going to loop until you beat him. I can't even catch this guy. I hit him once at the beginning.
I hit him twice on, like, accident. I just got kind of lucky where, like, I was already going pretty quick, so I was able to just, like, hit him twice in a row, and then he, like, flew up, and I'm like, wait, what the fuck? And I'm like...
And then there's water coming up from the bottom. I'm like, I'm underwater now. I can't hit this guy. I just need to get out of water. Hopefully I can loop back. Oh, wait, it's not looping. Oh, wait, I'm done? And he flies away. Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's what happened.
You can do enough damage to him. It's the same thing happens, though. Like, he, like, does the explosions of when, like, oh, you know, you beat him, but then you still have to get up to the top anyway, and he flies away, so... But I thought it was, like, at least a cool surprise. Like, this was definitely the most surprising with, like, the set piece of the waterfall puzzle, and then, like...
They changed it up at the end
chase.
that you don't need to necessarily...
Yeah.
Beat him.
I also think aesthetically this is my most pleasing level besides Green Hill Zone.
I think it looks cool. Like, it has, like, like seaweed there, and then I do like some of the gargoyles with the water coming out. I think that's a nice touch. Makes it seem ancient, or maybe like there is no like official lore from that we know of, right, about this. Besides, I'm just assuming it just gives like an old.
I'm sure
old
one
cavern,
of the comics has it, but yeah,
an old cavern kind of style. That isn't just a cave, like it. But I wouldn't have called it labyrinth. I think cavern would have been better.
Yeah, because it's not really a maze.
Yeah,
it feels more like ruins, you know.
Yeah,
but I'm sure also again these were names in Japanese as well. It was written in English, and like these names, it's not like they were called something else over there. So maybe the idea of labyrinth has more of a ancient ruin kind of feeling than what we would just consider a maze, essentially. But why don't we move on to Starlight Zone, which is 2 words, even though my notes rate it as 1. So only 2 enemies in Starlight Zone. Orbinauts return here, but they don't shoot their balls. They're pretty docile, and they're a slightly different color. And then there is a new enemy, my most hated enemy. His name is Bomb. I think he's invincible because I've never actually killed one.
You can't. I don't think, unless you had no. Because even when I was invincible, like they wouldn't hurt me. Like I can run through them, but
yeah. So when Sonic gets close, they start a fuse. When the fuse reaches and explodes, it shoots out 4 projectiles, and I hate this enemy. So I think this is it's funny that it took this one gave you trouble. I think this is the easiest zone besides Green Hill Zone.
Really?
Just because there's a lot of like fun looping stuff in all 3 of these acts. I mean, even if you look at Act 1 here, like look how many paths there are. Just even in like, yeah, there's an upper and a lower, but the lower has like 3 ways of going through it. You know, is very, very complex and gives it way more of a roller coaster feel. It is. I don't know what the theme is supposed to be. It's like this weird sci-fi moon base but then there's also abandoned giant buildings in the background.
Yeah, and then you kind of get that with Scrap Brain as well. With I call it, well, we'll talk about Scrap Brain, but like that house had like a city element as well. So that
Yeah,
was,
weird.
so maybe they're connected, I guess, in a way. But I think it was, I wrote down, well, I wrote down the first note I wrote for Starlight is like, I'm tired of random pits that kill you. Like, you want me to go fast, but also be slow.
Yeah, you're supposed to just know, apparently. But
But I did write that, and then I wrote Act 2. I accidentally found a way to the bottom. Like, I was just trying to go as fast as I could.
yeah,
Like the first time I went through it. And all of a sudden I finished the level. Like, I don't know how I did it, but like I was like, I just kept going, and I got like a little lucky, but like I stumbled to the bottom part of Act 2, and all of a sudden I just finished. And I'm like, oh, that was not.
yeah.
That was
Act two
nice.
is very short. Weirdly enough, like, and I don't mean that like physically, but like you said, I also was like, oh wait, I'm done. Like, this one was fast. Like, I don't think there's a lot of like obstacles in your way.
If you look
I
at
mean,
Act
like,
2
if you
there,
look,
yeah, it's just a loop. If you just stay straight,
lots of loops.
you just stay on the loop. You went up in the bottom, there's that loop there, and then you have to go up those 3 pillars, but I don't remember how I got.
There's moving platforms that aren't shown in the image, but yeah, I mean, it's just more. This is the most roller coastery level, and I think Sonic CD takes inspiration from Starlight Zone for some of its stuff
I
too.
like
where
when
it's
there's loops. I think that's, to me,
Yeah.
more closer to what when I
iconic.
think of Sonic design, world design is the loops.
Yeah, I hate the I hate the bomb enemies. Absolutely hate
Yeah,
them.
they're
Like,
sometimes in a shitty spot.
Act 3 ends in a boss fight that uses that seesaw mechanic.
I hate
Um,
fuck those. That was, and I realized because I struggled a lot with the boss, and I did finally beat it after sleeping on it. Where like you said, there's the seesaws, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
I realized that if you just sit in the middle, Eggman will never, like, I realized, like, at one part I was just like, let me see what he does. I realized that he's not trying to drop it on you. He's just going to wherever you're not. And I realized, like, okay, let me just hang to the right, and he'll put
I
one in the
didn't realize
middle,
that.
and then you jump on. You just wait for it. I found basically a pattern of how to beat it, where like I either hung to the far left, and he'll drop one
Yeah.
in the middle, and then as he's turning around, that's when I jump, and then the bomb hits him, and I kill him with the
Yeah.
bombs.
Honest to God, I didn't even think about that. I was just like, oh, I just got to be fast, I guess. Just keep jumping, hopping.
But there was
around.
points where I would do that, and then I started getting like started panicking because there's just so many bombs everywhere, and then I would run into the bomb, or as I'm jumping to dodge one bomb, he's dropping a bomb, and like I died one time to that. I'm like, are you serious? So I realized if you just slow down and just hang to the far left or far right, he'll put one in the middle, and then you just got to wait for him to turn around. Then you jump on it, and the bomb will just directly hit him. And but I will say that I wouldn't have been able to do it without rings. Like, I had to go through I couldn't get a
The keep ring.
yeah, because
Yeah,
even when
same,
I knew the
same.
pattern, there was still a point where I was like trying to rush, I think, too much.
And like the if you didn't have keep rings on, you get hit once. You have to grab some rings. The scramble to pick up your rings would fuck up your pattern of the seesaws.
Yeah, there was one point where I was doing my pattern where I did get hit, and I'm like, fuck. And then I'm like, I only had like 3 rings or something like that. So I got the one, and I got hit again, and I just kept chasing. And then I wasn't even fighting him
The
anymore. I was
one.
just chasing the one ring, and I did it for like a good
Yeah.
like 25 seconds. I think I was more impressed with myself of keeping up with the ring while trying to dodge 5 bombs all at the same time. Because then my whole pattern was all over the place because he's starting to drop it wherever I wasn't. And if I'm not on either of all 3, all of a sudden all 3 of them have them on there no matter where you jump, and then they're flinging around. So like that was
Yeah.
frustrating, but once I found the pattern, I was like, fuck yeah, fuck you, Eggman. I figured you out.
Yeah. It's funny, the scramble to keep your rings is a way in order for you to, as long as you don't fall into pits and get squished, always stay alive. You know what I mean? As opposed to like Mario, where like if small Mario gets hits, he's dead. There's no way to get your Mario back. You know what I mean? So like, even though the level design is frustrating and like punishes you because fuck you, I guess, it is nice at least that they're like, well, no, if you can at least grab some of your rings, even just one,
But there was
you
moments
can
where
keep
like
going. And
I
you're still
thought I was
safe.
grabbing them, and then they didn't. I thought there's a couple moments that happened to me where like I had
Really?
like 50 and like I got hit. I also got some frame drops, by the way. Did you ever get frame drops?
No.
I got frame drops when I had like a shit ton of rings and got hit. Where like it'll like drop a little bit in frames as if like it didn't know what to do with all the rings that I just lost. I don't know if that was something with my Switch but I thought that was weird. But
Interesting.
yeah, there was a couple of moments where I was like, why didn't I grab those rings after I got hit? It's not picking them up.
I mean, I know they start to disappear, but I guess I don't know if they are technically gone when they start to fade or not. But I don't know. Maybe it happened to me and I just didn't remember. But let's move on to Scrap Brain Zone. So now you mentioned at the beginning of these zones that like after Green Hill Zone, there's a difficulty jump where it's like, okay, no, now you need to play for real. For me, the jump happens again here where it's like, okay, now we want to make sure that it takes you a while to beat the game so that you don't like return it to to Blockbuster or whatever you rented this from. Like
Yeah.
we want to make sure you're spending the summer playing this game. Scrap Brain Zone has a new enemy. It's the final new enemy. His name is Ball Hog. He just stands on a slope platform and just tosses a ball down at you, and then it goes boom. Returning are the Caterkillers, bombs, which suck.
Yep.
And then in Act 3, there are Orbinauts and Jaws and Burrowbots again. But I just want to say that fuck Scrap Brain Zone, and especially fuck the first level. Act 1 features many frustrating flipping platforms. Right away, there's a trapdoor. It's just, and it immediately, like,
Yep.
you're just fucked. That's like, oh, wait, no, yeah, fuck you, essentially. And then there are vanishing block platforms. So this is how when I first started playing Scrap Brain Zone, follow along with me, pop up the image. I die immediately to the trapdoor. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I can't stand on these at all. Jump over them. Okay, cool. I go through the weird like spinning door thing. I go right. I don't go down. I go right.
Yep.
You do the thing where you have to wait for
I
the
think that is
platforms
the
to
best
move out of
path
your
too,
way.
is going right.
Oh, it's funny you say that because I've never been able to finish it going right. I always had to go down. But I went right. You go down the weird like tooth kind of thing where they kind of interlocking like keys.
That just felt like I was slowing you down.
It
This
was
is so
annoying.
annoying.
That was a good programming challenge. That's why it's there. If we look back in the origin section, I had a slide there of level design ideas. You don't need to pull it up if you don't want to. This is one of them, and there's an X through it because Nako's like, this is a bit too hard right now. I'll see what I can do later. So I think it's only in here because he was like, oh, I was able to manage to do it. I made it work. That's why it's in here, because
Gotcha.
they were just annoying. But you get out and you go up. And then now we have the conveyor belt of spinning platforms. Now, Devin, in every other zone, it's very obvious what is a solid block and what is a platform. A platform is something that you can jump through the bottom of and land on top. These look like those, but you can't go through the bottom because they want to spin when they hit the corners of their treadmill or whatever, of their track.
Yeah.
So this is what I did. I kept fucking up and failing. You can see in the middle, so there is that tiny little trapezoid floating, and then I get up there. I tried and I fell. Now there is a pit. At the bottom of the pit is one of those brain things that just shoots electricity,
Yeah.
and there are vanishing blocks to get out of there. Okay, fine. And there are brain things all around when you get up. I needed to jump up, jump up. Now I needed to do the treadmill. And if I fuck with the treadmill, I fall down into the pit. I have to get out by the vanishing blocks. I get up, try to get on the treadmill. I fall down. Okay, and this time, after the 7th time, I get on, get to the apex. It spins before I jump. Fuck. Try it again. Now I need to jump on a platform that hasn't even appeared yet. It hasn't shown up yet. It was the vanishing blocks didn't pop up yet. It was so annoying. I like rage quit here. This is my pathetic gamer moment. Eventually I would come back and beat it by going down instead of right. I said fuck this whole section. But this was this to me, it was like, no, fuck you this whole time. Like, I don't know what you thought about Act 1 in particular, but for me, like, this was where I was
this
like,
is the
hey,
one where,
you
like,
fucking suck.
Yeah, I definitely think it's the hardest, one of the harder levels or acts I mean, sorry, Jesus Christ, zones, like overall. So like a lot of them kind of blur together for me. Uh, but I do. Well, there's two things I did like about this one. I'll say that I did write down because I kind of agree with everything you're saying. There's a lot of bullshit that happens. A lot of
The trap
traps.
door at the beginning is bullshit.
Yeah. Uh, and I wrote that I did appreciate. So I don't know if this is the inspired by Blade Runner. I love Blade Runner. Everyone knows. I think I talk about it too much, but I think I do like that in the backdrop. At least in Act One, you can see like all the looks like factories and buildings and stuff, and it looks so much like Blade Runner. I'm like, I wonder
I think this is supposed to be like Eggman created his. This is where he lives.
because Blade Runner
Is
was
this the-
1982, so I guess it wouldn't have been. So it's a year after, or no, Jesus Christ, I'm thinking 91 or 82.
Yeah.
So yeah, this I mean,
Um,
it was possible,
This
but
plus
it
lots
looked
of
so much
sci-fi
like Blade
anime,
Runner that I'm
but
just like,
yeah, I can see it.
you know what I mean. And then I did like the
can see
music. I did like how in Act
I
Three
hated
though,
the music.
in Act Three that the
Sorry,
music
go on.
changes, and you think you're about to fight the boss right away, and then he throws you down.
Act two does it, not 3. Act 3 is a Labyrinth Zone style level. Remember?
Okay, well I wrote it down. I don't remember.
Yeah, at the end of Act 2, you go up and then Eggman's standing behind a barrier,
That's
and
what
he drops
yeah,
you down.
yeah. I like that. I wrote down his Act Three because to me like it kind of started there, but I like how it changed
Sure.
music as if you're about to fight him, and then it went back to the
Yeah. Yeah.
the zone music. But yeah, I do agree that there's a lot of traps on this, all of them. But the first one sucks.
Act 2 does the looping thing again. I don't want to say as an illusion, but it does it with like the tubes you go in that warp you. They like shoot you up. Some of them literally shoot you through the screen loop and they pop you back up again. I actually like the spinning discs that you can run on, but I was doing it not as the game originally intended. I was drop dashing on them, and you go really fucking fast when you do that. So I would just shoot straight up into the air, and I thought that was fun. But this one also gave me just such trouble. Like I just kept dying and dying and dying, so I gave up. Said fuck it until I came back, did it on the first try again. Like as any gamer does, if you spend 8 hours dying, eventually you'll get it right the next morning. But to me, it's just more of the same. But yeah, like like Sonic 3 likes to get a lot of credit for like having actual transitions between the zones where it's like, oh, Sonic 1 jumps down this manhole and now he's in Hydrocity Zone or whatever. But like this happens here where like Eggman drops you down a pit and then you land in what Yuji Naka calls the basement of Scrap Brain Zone, which is like a labyrinth zone.
Yeah,
Like that's cool. Like he drops you there. That's pretty cool.
like like it was part of his plan the whole time.
Yeah. And they even like fuck you up because like you're not immediately starting by going right, you're going left. But you could go right. But you can't really, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of different paths you can take and it's almost like a maze. This is if you look at the level layout of Scrap Brain Zone 3, it really is kind of like a maze cuz where is the exit?
Yeah, I'm
You know
just
what I
looking
mean?
at this. I don't
The exit is the
remember
top
now. I was gonna
rightmost
say,
part.
That's it, right? Yeah.
They put springs there and then Sonic bounces up and he lands back in Act 2 of Scrap Brain Zone on the other end of the barrier. And they call that Final Zone. This zone is just supposed to be frustrating. Originally the name for this zone wasn't Scrap Brain, it was called Clockwork. But
That might have been a
one
better title.
one of the because of all the interlocking and moving parts.
Yeah.
One of the letters, I think it had to have been the W, wasn't in, like it couldn't fit in their font.
Gotcha.
So they had to rename it. And so Scrap Brain, like I get like that's why I call like the things that shoot the electricity as little brains, because where does the brain come
Yeah,
in?
and I don't know.
Besides maybe the idea of being smart and thinking, you know? But in any case, I hated Scrap Brain Zone. I think it's definitely the most forgettable final zone for Sonic.
Yeah.
And then we do Final Zone, which is just a boss. It's a simple boss, but they give you no rings.
Yeah, I was gonna say
For
I
this
did
boss.
with level select. They give you no rings, so it's kind of like Fuck.
Yeah,
It took me a couple tries, but I did get it.
yeah. And like there are parts where, so there are four. So how the possibility is that Eggman gets into one of four tubes, disappears, and then the two tubes will randomly shoot out to squish you, and he's in one of them. If you can hit him, you do damage him. You have to do him like 7 or 8 times. I forget what it was. So randomly, two of the four tubes will shoot out. There is a possibility that the two middle ones do it, and if you are not fast enough, you will. There's nothing you can do. Like if you're not positioned correctly, you will get hit.
Yeah.
But rarely does that happen. But it was like not a very fun boss fight. I didn't want to say it feels anticlimactic, but like I would imagine he would have been in a robot fighting you, which is what Sonic 2 did. To be fair, but like here's like I'm just gonna squish you in my trap.
Yeah, it just felt like a big trap. I mean, I guess it kind of fits with though with how Scrap Brain ended, where like it did feel like a trap. That like
That's
okay,
fair.
this is if you did make it out, I'm gonna squish him. You know, like I guess sure. I guess I kind of agree with you. Like it wasn't anticlimactic, but it wasn't anything too crazy that maybe you would think at the ending
Yeah.
of a game like this, like as opposed to Mario, you know, where you
Yeah, you're fighting Bowser, and it's like there's more to it. It there is a lot of evidence to suggest that they had a lot more plans to do a Scrap Brain Zone, but they couldn't because of their limitations on the hardware and memory constraints. Naka said that he wanted to change the background of Scrap Brain Zone 3, which he calls the basement of it, to being something that isn't Labyrinth Zone's background, but they couldn't. So he just changed the colors of everything. So like he would have made it again like subterranean. He probably would have kept the theme, but like the idea was that it was a different layout looking level than Scrap Brain Zone Acts 1 and 2 because this was a surprise, but they really couldn't, so they had to pick something. So they picked Labyrinth Zone because it was the closest, you know?
yeah.
Um,
They drop
but,
you in Green Hill Zone, you have to do the entire game again.
I mean, at least they drop you in a fun level,
Yeah.
to be fair. Yeah, so that is the entirety of the game. I will talk about re-releases of the game, but before we do that, now that we've discussed everything about the game, give me final thoughts. A score, maybe?
Score maybe?
Well, I don't know. What are your thinkings on this?
I mean, I don't think my opinion really changed too much after talking about it. I guess I appreciate, like I said, I feel like I already appreciated some of the stuff in the game, but now that you kind of like talked about, I mean, we talked about more in depth about like some of the decisions they had to make or some of the ways they did some things. I'm like, I guess I appreciate it a little bit more, but overall, I don't think my opinion changed too much. I still think I thought I had an all right time with it. Maybe I'll play it again. This isn't a game I hate. I think I have more beef with like Sonic Forces and Sonic Adventure 2 than this. I think I'd rather play this than Sonic Adventure 2 or Sonic Forces, for example.
Okay.
I guess I would say that like is one of my just by default one of my favorite Sonic games I've played. You know what I mean? Just because I haven't played too many Sonic games. I know it's blasphemy for being on a show called the Sonic Movie Show, but
Most of Sonic fans have not beaten most of them or played most of them either, so it's okay. Everyone comes in at different points. The Sonic, the Hedgehog character enraptures us all.
yes, but because I played a little bit of I have it on PlayStation. Is it Sonic? Jesus Christ!
I know you have Sonic Mania.
I think it's Sonic Mania. And, like I can't get past Chemical Plant, you know, and like I'm like maybe after
Really?
playing this, I'm like maybe I can go at that again and get past that.
I bet you could.
You know what I mean? So
I bet you could. Those levels are a lot longer than this because
I was gonna
actually
say,
after beating
like,
this,
that- I remember-
I wanted to be like, what's it feel like to go from Sonic 1 to Sonic Mania? And I'm like, oh my god, it's like night and day in terms of like just the quality and animation. And yeah, the levels are super long in Mania for sure.
Which I
like
don't
it's
know if
several minutes.
I do like the length of this game. I do feel like
I agree with you.
that the levels I do like the 3 acts per zone. I think it just feels right as opposed to 2 where it's like, oh, okay, never mind, bye.
Yeah. It feels like it's easier for you to get into a rhythm and understanding the mechanics of the zone when they're throwing their hardest stuff at you in Act 3. It's like, okay, I get this.
I
And
get
as
the
opposed to a
water. I get
two-stone
it.
structure,
Or I
it's like
get
just when I'm starting to get it, now moving on to something else. Yeah.
yeah. So
Um,
I think the length is good. I think the game overall game length is perfect for me, for someone who might not have as much time. I don't need a 30-hour Sonic game. I don't think there's any Sonic games that are like that really, but this
Forces.
felt a lot shorter than other Sonic games that I've touched or seen, at least to me. But so yeah, I guess
Okay.
if I had to give it a score
You don't have
out
to,
of
but
10, I'm gonna only grade this on the Sonic scale. Except if I had to grade it compared to like
The Last of Us Part
or
2.
God
What
of
other
War,
games do we
yeah,
talk
something yeah,
about?
something like
Yeah.
that. It's definitely gonna be like a 4. But like I think on a Sonic scale, this is probably a solid 8 or 9. Like just because there's not that too many like Sonic experiences that I've super enjoyed. So I think I'd rather play this, like I said, over Sonic Forces and the Sonic
I agree
Adventure
with you
games.
there.
I think this is the Sonic I want, closer to what the Sonic I want from now on. For the new Sonic game that hopefully will come out next year.
I mean, maybe. Hopefully, it'd be cool if they actually remade this game. Just they call it Sonic the Hedgehog and actually be a remake of Sonic the Hedgehog. Like
That'd
just
be cool.
do. Well, I want to see what Marble Zone looks like in 8K 120 frames per second or whatever.
Ray tracing.
Yeah,
They actually
exactly.
put puddles in it that like they look
Yeah,
like the
you can
Spider-Man screenshot
see
somehow. I don't know.
it's easier to see ahead this time because you can see the reflection of the lava on Sonic's eyeballs because of ray tracing. You
It's
know
just
that
like
it's coming
super
up.
zoomed in though, so you can make sure you see all the detail. And it actually makes the game worse. They're
Exactly.
like, hey, but you can see his fur sticking up.
Yeah. I agree with you on the fact that I think we should grade this on the Sonic curve, and because I would give it an 8. I think this is a solid Sonic game that is mostly inoffensive. I like the fact that Sonic's design in terms of its gameplay are that each zone is completely different art assets. For the most part, new enemies in each one. Later games would be no completely new enemies every single time than this one does. This one definitely reuses enemies, but I like the fact that no, like you go from Green Hill Zone to Marble Zone, which looks kind of similar above ground, and then you're underground with lava, and then now you're in Spring Yard Zone, and now you're in Labyrinth Zone. Starlight's completely different than that, and I appreciate it. I like the music
I was gonna say I liked
quite
Starlight
a
a
bit.
lot. Uh,
Yeah, I like Labyrinth is my favorite.
Labyrinth had a
Green Hill
good
is obviously
had some fun tracks.
um, but yeah, like overall, there are a lot of gaming franchises that start off rocky, right? Like at first, and then the second one kind of gets it. But like, I feel like this one pretty much got it right away. It knew what it wanted. It doesn't have the experience making the game that like Sonic 2, when they go into making Sonic 2, like they know how to make a Sonic game already. But I don't think that they like made a bad one right off the bat and needed to learn how to make a good one. I think they made one that was like what they wanted.
That's what I'm saying.
They just
It
needed to
did feel at
smooth it
moments
out.
that it was like ahead of its time, and like, oh, this is something you'd expect, like you said, a sequel or even a third game,
Yeah.
which actually makes
It's
it
kind
more
of
sad in a
yeah,
way.
it's like you got it right immediately and then you didn't learn any lessons.
You didn't
Yeah.
like build upon that. You're like, what if it was 3D and like he talks to humans, has a girlfriend,
And kisses
and
her.
kisses her?
Okay, let's move on now, and I'm gonna try to go as through this as quickly as I can, but there'll be parts where I might be spending a long time on one section or another. But I'm gonna talk about the different versions and editions of Sonic One. So now, I'm just throwing this right off the bat right now. If I don't say really anything about it, I just say it was also on here, then that version of the game is just emulating the Sega Genesis and that's version of Sonic One.
Gotcha.
So if I go into detail, it's because it's either from the ground up remade to fit this or ported to be running on the code of that system instead of just put in an emulator package. So On the Sega Genesis, there are actually two versions of it. The initial run, when it first came out, again, it was marketed to be for Americans, number one. So it actually came to America first by about a month. But once the initial run of the US version had been replaced shortly after with a Japanese version, which came out a month later, that fixed a few bugs and cleaned up some of the logic of enemy behaviors in the game. Notable changes are actually for the graphics. So, like Green Hill Zone, the clouds are multiple parallax scrollings for the clouds in the Japanese version. The American version, it's pretty much just kind of static or like one moves. In the Japanese version, there's several layers of them moving at once to kind of gain a distance, which is cool. And Labyrinth Zone's water has a ripple effect in the Japanese version. American version, it doesn't. So that's interesting. And also, they fixed the level selects order in the Japanese version. They are in the actual order that the zones are in. That was something that they couldn't do last minute because they needed to ship the game, so they just left it level select the way it was in the American version. So that is interesting. There are a few compilations of the game on Genesis. There is Sonic Classics 3-in-1, a Genesis cartridge that has Sonic 1 and 2, and the puzzle game Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, also known as Puyo Puyo, because in America, God forbid you just call it Puyo Puyo. They made it about Sonic. So all three of those games are on one cartridge, but Sonic 1's identical. In the PAL regions in Europe, there is a 6-game cartridge called the Mega 6, and there are multiple volumes of it. Mega 6 Volume 3 has Sonic 1 on it, and it's unaltered. Later in America, we got a one called the 6-Pack, same kind of deal, but different games. So now, we're moving on to the arcade. There are two versions of Sonic 1 in the arcades.
Okay. That's what I was curious about. Yeah, because I feel like it would suck on an arcade.
There is... so, Nintendo had an arcade lineup, besides their actual arcade games, but they had an arcade machine called the Play Choice 10, where they basically just plugged in NES games, and you paid to play them, essentially. Some games actually were Japanese only that they were going to release in America, but they only ever put it in those, which is cool. And obviously Neo Geo is like that too, where it's just their console and their arcade machines is the same thing. Arcade operators could just buy the cartridges, plug them into the boards, and their users could play whatever one they want. So Sega did the same thing. Their first arcade version of it was called the Megatech Arcade. The Megatech line of arcade machines were multi-game cabinets. And Megatech games would allow players to pick one of 8 games in the machine. They could play for as long as they had credits. So essentially 1 credit, whatever your arcade token was, gave you 1 minute of playtime. If you get a game over while you still have time left, so you can just either start playing again the same game, or you get to pick a different game. But the game is unaltered in that sense. There are no changes to it. It's just when your time's up, you want to put more money in? No? Okay, go away, kid. That was it.
Gotcha.
But
you said only a minute?
1 minute per token. Yeah.
That's a lot of tokens.
That's a lot of tokens, especially for Sonic. But very quickly they replaced Megatech with a new lineup of the same type of idea called Mega Play, which we have that version in the Sega Ages Switch version. The Mega Play arcade line replaced the Megatech machines. It housed only 4 games instead of 8, but the versions of the games are actually modified to actually fit an arcade experience. So credits bought the players continues, not time.
That's a little bit more fair.
And in Sonic 1, continue is when you run out of lives, you get to restart your zone with a fresh set of lives. You can only get continues in Sonic 1 in the special stages. If you get a certain amount of rings, you get it in a continue. But they don't really... It's hard to know unless you actually did lose all your lives and you had one I get to continue, but you might not know why you got it. But credits bought you the continues. So instead of time, you got those. In the case of Sonic 1, all of the extra live spots were replaced with just extra points. So if you hit the little Sonic TV icon, you just got a bunch of points. The player's only given 3 lives, and losing brings you to the continue screen where extra credits could be inserted for you to keep playing. The list of zones has been shortened, and each level now has a time limit, resulting in death if the player cannot complete the level in time. The list of zones in the Mega Play is as follows. It goes Green Hill Zone, then Spring Yard Zone, then Starlight Zone, then Scrap Rain. They skip the slow levels. They skip Marble, and they skip
I
Labyrinth.
guess that's fair if they're gonna do it
But
like that.
But for Scrap Rain Zone, since they skipped Labyrinth, they had to skip Act 3 of Scrap Rain because it uses Labyrinth Zone stuff. So Scrap Rain is only the 2. So I don't know what happens when Eggman drops you down. Does Sonic just pop back up again? And like,
Yeah.
no, bitch. Um, but yeah, and then obviously you do Final Zone. So the shortest time limit that it gives you is for Green Hill Zone Act 1, but it gives you 50 seconds, which I think is pretty fair. It's easy to do, especially on your second time you can do it. And the longest they give you is for Final Zone. They give you 4 minutes to beat Final Zone. They also skip all the special stages too. So you can't earn Chaos Emeralds or
no.
extra
What's the
continues.
point?
I know.
That's what I only play
So-
Sonic for.
Yeah. The Sega Ages, the other challenge mode is playing the Mega Play version on 1 life and see what your highest score is. So there's a leaderboard for that. So Sega, the Sonic the Hedgehog was a 16-bit game on the Sega Genesis. What if I told you there are actually 8-bit versions of Sonic the Hedgehog? They actually made a version of this on their previous system, the Sega Master System, and their handheld, the Sega Game Gear. These are simpler versions for less sophisticated hardware. The levels are mostly horizontal and they lack the loops and other ramps. If you look at the layouts, I didn't give you any, but if you look at the layouts, they're mostly like flat. It's almost kind of boring if you look at them like that. Yeah.
I need my loops.
But half the zones are replaced with brand new ones. The list is as follows. It goes Green Hill Zone, then Bridge Zone, then Jungle Zone, then Labyrinth Zone, Scrap Brain Zone, and then a new zone called Sky Base Zone, where you fight Eggman in the clouds.
Sick.
Chaos Emeralds are actually hidden in the levels themselves, and the special stages, instead of that weird rotating thing, are just a very small 2D platforming section with shit ton of rings everywhere. And if you don't finish, then they kill you. Like, you don't get to keep your rings and your points and extra lives if you don't. But it's also interesting to note that the signpost at the end, you run past it in Sonic 1, and it spins from being Eggman to Sonic. It actually, instead of spinning to Sonic, it spins to a random symbol that gives you either extra lives, extra rings, or it warps you to that special stage. So it wasn't just like, we're going to port it. It's like, okay, well, this is a weaker version. Let's make it a little bit different. Let's replace the some of the zones and put brand new ones in there. Maybe the water doesn't really work all that well.
I was gonna say, it's like
Let's
really
put a
not
jungle.
the same game though at that point.
Yeah, but it's like mostly the same. So it's interesting. So next, Sonic Jam. So this is a Sega Saturn game that collects ports of Sonic 1, 2, 3, and Knuckles. These are true ports, not an emulation. They're running on actual Saturn code. Therefore, they have various audio and bug differences. The games each get new difficulty modes. In the addition of the unaltered original mode, there are easy and normal modes. Normal is mostly a revision of the levels, slight changes to make it more fair. I kind of view this as more of like them looking at it nowadays, in quotes, because it wasn't even 10 years later. They were looking at it nowadays and be like, if I were to make this level again, what would I make it so it's not bullshit? That's what I kind of view it as. Easy mode changes the levels quite a bit. Most of the enemies and the hazards are completely removed. Extra power-ups and extra platforms are added in a bunch of places. Boss fights take way less hits, which is kind of funny. And most of the levels are actually cut, making the game itself very short. Basically, in the case of Sonic 1, the levels list is Green Hill Zone Act 1, Marble Zone Act 1, Spring Yard Zone Act 2, Labyrinth Zone Act 3, Starlight Act 2, and Scrap Brain Act 1, and then the final zone.
Damn.
Which is weird. So you just breeze through that game.
I was gonna say it's like 45 minutes. Probably not even that.
They also give you the spin dash from Sonic 2. So this is the first instance where they're like, hey, let's give them a thing that he didn't have in the first game. But it is kind of interesting to note there isn't enough zones in the easy mode, or isn't enough levels to get all the Chaos Emeralds. so you can't actually get the good ending on easy mode because of that. So if you wanted to be like, oh, true gamers, you can't do it. But one thing that I do think is actually cool that future versions don't do, since this was a true port to the Sega Saturn, a more sophisticated piece of hardware, it wasn't limited to the number of audio channels the Genesis had. So like sound effects don't interrupt the music. You know what I mean? The Genesis has a certain amount of audio channels. The music goes through all of them. And let's say you hit a spring, it activates audio channel 3, which then takes the bass out for that point and puts in the sound effect. Now the bass pops back in. Sega Saturn has more of them, so it's still on top, but you're still hearing the music uninterrupted in that sense, which is cool.
Yeah, or it's
so
not
now,
the song isn't gonna start over.
like in Spring Yard, when
Yes.
you're hitting all the bumpers, it's just replacing the music so often that it's annoying. Sega Saturn version doesn't do that, which is cool. So now we're going into a lot of compilations and stuff. If I don't really talk about it, this is just an emulated thing. There's nothing to it. It's just running on Genesis code. It's not going to be as good because most of the quality of the job isn't as good. But, excuse me, it was a part of the Sega Smash Pack Volume 1 for the Dreamcast. It was a part of the Sonic Mega Collection for the GameCube. A part of the Sonic Mega Collection Plus for the PlayStation 2 and Xbox. It appeared on the Wii Virtual Console, which is where I first played it. It had 2 mobile flip phone ports in Japan. The first was a $3 a month subscription, and the other one was just a purchase. So either could pay $3 a month to play Sonic, or buy it outright for the other version, which is weird. It was a part of the Sega Genesis collection for PlayStation 2 and PSP. It was... Now this is a deep dive. It was directly recreated from the ground up for the Game Boy Advance under the name Sonic the Hedgehog Genesis. This version attempts to recreate the original game, and it was released as a part of Sonic's 15th anniversary. So this was around Sonic 06's release date.
Gotcha.
Because that was also Sonic 15. 2006 was its 15th anniversary. This version includes an anniversary mode that includes the Spin Dash from Sonic 2, which they always like to add in as their bonus. And the cartridge has a battery in it, so it can actually save after each level. So you don't have to like start from the beginning, because the Genesis didn't have a battery in the cartridge. Besides that, though, this version suffers from several things. The music and sound is much simpler, for reasons that don't really make much sense. The music also starts, and the sound effects also start delayed from most of Sonic's actions. The physics are inconsistent, meaning Sonic's momentum fluctuates when it shouldn't. Sonic ends up bouncing off of enemies from below instead of rising up through them. He'll just hit it from behind, from below, and then just
hit it from
as
behind.
if he hit it from
All right,
above.
Sonic, I hear you.
Yeah, I didn't do that sound effect very well. So he'll bounce off enemies from below as if he was up on top. If timed right, he can bounce off of lava and spikes without taking injury, but he jumps at odd angles when he does this. Sonic can get stuck in springs because their hitboxes are very small. Their checkpoints boxes are very small. You can easily miss a checkpoint by running through it.
Sounds like just a terribly broken
yeah.
game.
There are goofy, unexplainable shit happens if you get both the speed shoes and the invincibility, because their timing isn't the exact same. One lasts longer than the other. I don't know what happened when I watched this video. I don't understand what happened. Sonic did some fucked up shit. The water surface in Labyrinth Zone. So you can go underwater, right? And on the top level of the water, there is a wave kind of sprite that sits on top of it that flickers, it dithers. The game on Genesis runs at 60 frames a second, and every other frame, it's reappearing. So one frame it's there, second frame it's gone. Third frame it's there, fourth frame it's gone. It does that, right?
Yeah.
It dithers, so it gives it like a flickering effect of
Pulsating.
like water, right? Right. In this Game Boy Advance version, the water surface dithers at such a slow speed that it's like boom, 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 instead of 60 times a second.
Jeez.
Think about it. And so that's very nauseating. Sometimes his speed stops on a dime when you weren't expecting it. And other times his deceleration is a lot slower than normal, as if you were underwater but not. And this applies to mid-air too. You can be in the air trying to land on a spot, and then miss it because you're slowing down slower than you were normally, and then all of a sudden you missed it and died.
Mm.
The also what's inconsistent is the frame rate, which 90% of the time can't maintain a stable anything. So it manages to both feel sluggish and rushed at the same time. It feels like you're always fucking up. It tries to calculate enemies and traps in such a way that even when they're off screen, it slows everything down. There'd be times where you don't see anything around you, but it's slow as shit because there's an enemy way up above you that it hasn't seen yet. Now combine all of this, Devin, all of these issues. All of a sudden, this is a terrible game, right?
Yeah.
Combine this with the fact that the Game Boy Advance's resolution is about a third of what the Genesis could output as. So that means that the game is just zoomed in. They didn't scale the sprites down.
I was joking earlier about the whole like
they just zoomed it
having
in.
the ray tracing. The only way you could see it is you have to zoom in. Like, yeah, you don't want it any more zoomed in. I think if anything, this game should have been zoomed out a hair. You know,
they crop it in so you can barely see in front of you anymore. Like the tiles, I kind of measured it in this video I watched, is about 7.5 wide and 5.5 tall. Sonic is one of those tiles. So he has about 3 tiles ahead of him that you can see.
Damn,
you know what I
mean?
mean?
Sounds like there's some funny glitches in Sonic Adventure 2 or some BS will happen, but that just sounds like a train wreck. Like it's even unplayable. Like, I wouldn't want to even. If we're not reviewing that, right? Ever?
No, God, no. We're never going to be touching that. Does this surprise you that they only released this version in America and they didn't bother bringing it anywhere else?
Probably because the reviews are shit and no one bought it.
I feel like, but there's no way that they thought it was good.
Money
at all making it, you know. I mean, it's just like, hey, we need a Sonic thing. It's its 15th anniversary, so that's very shitty. But what's very surprising, this game was directly ported to the iPod. No, I don't mean iPod Touch. I mean the click wheel iPod. It could be supported on 5th generation iPods and later. So about the 2006, 2007 iPod.
Yeah.
With the click wheel, you could play it on there. I don't have a video of it. I didn't get to watch it, so I don't know if it's shit or not. But you could play it on your click wheel iPod, which is interesting. Yeah, it was a part of Sonic's Ultimate Genesis collection for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. It appeared on Xbox Live Arcade for Xbox 360. It appeared on the Apple App Store for iPhone. It was a part of the Sonic Classic collection for the Nintendo DS. Someone actually made a Genesis emulator for the DS, and then Sega hired that person to port Sonic on it. It appeared on Steam, but only for Windows. It appeared on Android phones. It appeared on the PlayStation Network for PlayStation 3. And then this is the first actual cool version of the game anywhere besides Sonic Jam's Easy Mode, which I'm surprised wasn't in the Sega Ages. I would have liked to have played that, see what it was like, you know. It appeared in the Sega 3D Classic lines of games to download from the Nintendo eShop on the Nintendo 3DS, and it was a part of a physical collection of some of them. So this version features the Spin Dash from Sonic 2, a choice between the US and Japanese versions of the Genesis game, as I mentioned earlier. There are 2 different audio styles based on which Genesis hardware you played it on back in the day. So I guess the sounds came out slightly different. And there was a special filter. And obviously, it was in stereoscopic 3D. So, the 3D layers everything. So how it works, the HUD is the closest layer to you, followed by 2 or 3 foreground layers. Sonic sits at the first of those layers, along with enemies and items and the actual ground itself. Layers 2 and 3 are decorative. So, they're used in the sense of, if you look at Green Hill Zone, has all those palm trees and flowers.
Yeah.
Some of them are on layers 2 and on 3. So it looks like there are palm trees on the left and right of Sonic as he runs through, which is actually pretty cool.
Makes it 3D without it actually being...
Without actually making cubes, you know what I mean? Yeah. These are the layers that actually sell it to me. It's actually pretty cool when it does that. The background is comprised of several layers. I couldn't even bother trying to count them. In zones where the background is the sky, it's used for the parallax scrolling. So there's just like Green Hill Zone has, I feel like maybe not as many as 7, but it looks like there's 7 layers of ocean and sky behind him. So like it really looks as if like this world is 3D. It's actually a pretty cool version. Um, but if there's a wall in the background, it actually kind of looks as if you're looking into like a box, if that makes sense. Where like there is a wall behind Sonic, and there's like a physical like backdrop, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The 3DS has been around for almost 10 years now. It's not like I'm saying as if the 3D is a new thing, but like taking an old game like Sonic was actually pretty cool. There are 2 ways to present this 3D too. There's pop out and fall in. Basically, it just shifts where the layers sit in relation to with your eyes. So in pop out, the farthest layer from you, it lines itself so as if it's flush with the glass of the 3DS. So like all the layers are coming closer to you physically. In Fallen, it's the opposite, where the closest layer to you is aligned with the glass, so it looks like you're peering into a world, as opposed of the world physically floating in front of you, if that makes sense. I preferred the Fallen. It actually kind of looked cool to be like, wow, like I can zoom into Sonic's world. But it was cool. And the special filter is a CRT TV mode, where they make it rounded like a tube TV glass, but with the 3D it's physically rounded in front of you. It's just a neat little thing, but that's not in 3D. It's just the glass. It's like playing 2D Sonic with a curved kind of thing. But that was cool. The besides version we played on, there is one more modern version of this game that you could argue is a better version of Sonic 1 to play than the version we played on the Nintendo Switch. So it was released on iOS and Android again in 2013 by a couple of the fans that would go on to make Sonic Mania. This version was recreated from the ground up on a custom engine designed to mimic the Sonic's version on Genesis. This guy learned how to make it. He made his own game engine based off Sonic's physics and stuff. It features full widescreen. So on a phone like your phone, the iPhone 8,
Yeah.
it's in 16:9. It's not zoomed in. You just see more, which is great. And on a phone like mine, the iPhone 10, it's even wider. It's ultra wide. So like you can see way far ahead.
That's pretty dope. Yeah.
Which is, yes, exactly. It makes it significantly easier since you can see further ahead. The game also runs at a consistent 60 frames a second, which is something that the Genesis games did on the CRT TVs, just in odd ways in which they operate. It just was always in 60 frames. But it's a lot harder to accomplish in modern ports. They need to run in emulators and stuff. So this is actually kind of cool. But what's one thing that's nice about the fact that it's scaled to this resolution and it wasn't just in an emulator is that because it's in the 60 frames per second, the logic is operating on an individual timer. It's harder to explain it, but if you look at like the clouds in Green Hill Zone and how they scroll, in the Genesis version, they're operating on the frames and they're operating on the pixels. So they kind of move pixel by pixel. In this version, it's just moving left to right just in terms of distance. So it looks like it's extremely smooth as opposed to, I don't want to say chunking along, but like moving pixel by pixel. So it's actually like just, I don't want to say like a flash game, but like a modern game that it's as if it wasn't made out of pixels at all. You know what I mean? As if this was a pixel image, but nothing else was pixels, if that makes sense.
No, I know what you mean.
Like,
yeah.
And so like some of the boss fights, like the spinning pendulum ball for Green Hill Zone's boss, actually looks really smooth and really cool. It's pretty nice. On PS4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch, there's just a collection of Genesis games. It's on there. It's the shitty version. Then there's the version that we played, which is, I think, is the most important version on the modern versions because it has multiple historical parts on it and adds the drop dash from Sonic Mania, and it has that ring keep mode, which actually makes the game bearable,
Yeah.
But yeah, so that is all of the like 36 places that Sonic 1 has been ported to. This has been, again, this is their best-selling Sega Genesis game. So of course, and it's their flagship character. They're just gonna put it as a freebie on everything possible. It was insane, but
I'm sure
yeah.
we'll get another version for PS5 and
I'm sure. I
Xbox
mean,
Series X or whatever you want to call it.
yeah, yeah. Every generation they've done a Sega Genesis Classics collection.
Yeah,
So
I'm sure they'll do that and sell 300,000 copies or whatever it
yeah,
is and get a couple extra
yeah.
dollars.
Gen Xers will be like, "Ooh, yay! I loved the Sega Genesis," and then they don't know any of the games on there besides Sonic, maybe Altered Beast and Golden Axe, and that's it.
Yeah,
But
I've heard of Golden
yeah,
Axe
so
before, but I
yeah,
haven't heard
Golden Axe was
Ultra
fun.
Beast or whatever you just said.
Altered Beast.
Altered
Altered
Beast.
Beast sucks.
I looked at
I mean,
screenshots. It looks.
he turns into a
I was
werewolf.
gonna say it looks kind of wild. I might have to check that out.
I apologize in advance for what you would have happened to you by playing that game, but give it a shot, man. But yeah, so
I just saw like they look like floating wolf heads or something, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? It looks wild.
so that was Sonic the Hedgehog for our 50th episode of the Sonic Movie Show. We hope this was fun. Hope you bared with us through this. How long was this episode?
3 hours roughly.
3 hours, of course. I had a feeling it was gonna be more than an hour. So thanks for bearing with us with this one. We had a lot of fun doing this. 50 episodes in, I'm glad we could spend this as a milestone on Sonic the Hedgehog.
The hog.
I wanted us to like have this be like a definitive thing instead of being like we played it and do we like it. So that's why I wanted to have like a bit of the history and kind of teach the kids, because
Teach the kids out
I
there,
guarantee
the Zoomers.
I guarantee there isn't a single Sonic fan under the age of 24, because we're older than 24, that has played this game. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I had a lot of fun. Actually, it was fun finding out all this information. Actually, Devin, if you want a visual, actually, I'll put this in the comments for the episode as well, for the description. A link to the easy mode in Sonic Jam, a playthrough someone did of that, and a playthrough of the Game Boy Advance version.
Okay.
The shitty. I recommend you watch at least that version, Devin, just to give a visual.
Sounds absolutely terrible.
Especially Marble Zone. It's just like I wasn't planning on watching the whole thing. I just want to see what it was like so I could type up about it. You know what I mean? And then I'm watching and I'm like, holy shit, this sucks. And I'm like describing what I see. Like,
damn. I mean,
they made
even for Sonic standards, it does sound pretty rough.
But it's like, it's crazy because the Sonic Advance games are great. The Sonic games they made for Game Boy Advance, are great. The one time they took an older game and put it on there, it's like a shit fest. It's weird. And they called it Sonic the Hedgehog Genesis. What does that even mean?
It sounds like, yeah, very like we're on the precipice of high tier greatness.
Exactly.
This is the best Sonic game. This is the Genesis. This is it.
And also, I'll add a couple links, one to a YouTube video and one to a PDF of a 2018 GDC talk, that's Game Developers Conference, with Naoto Oshima and the level designer whose name is Hirokazu Yasuhara. The two of them, they actually end the GDC thing with they make them draw Sonic, and of course the guy that fucking created the design draws him awesome, and I actually really like what he drew. So, and then the level designer drew like a stick figure Sonic, which is kind of funny. So I recommend those. So, do you have any closing thoughts, Devin, on what we accomplished today?
Well, I just want to say that, damn, we did 50. I mean, technically we did more if you're counting Chronicles of Diesel, but outside of that, can't believe it's been 50 already.
Yeah.
What are we doing for 100? We're doing another Sonic game?
Oh,
we'll decide.
We'll figure out when we get there.
We're going to play this again and review it again.
Did we still like Sonic? Yeah. Maybe we'll do another game. Maybe we won't. Maybe we won't even make it there. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe Sega will come after us. You said our game on Game Boy Advance sucked.
Or
cease and
the world
desist.
will end. You don't know.
Yes. Or, I mean,
Pandemic too. I don't know.
to be fair, how many weeks are there in a year?
52.
We might not make it till this point next year.
There's a lot of hey, we don't even know if we're gonna make it to next week at this point in this world. So, Sonic's the only thing that's
fair.
keeping us sane, right?
Exactly. So, Thank you guys for listening to this 50th spectacular episode of the Sonic Movie Show, a weekly podcast that airs every Sunday on various podcast platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Google Podcasts. I think are dying. Whatever, we'll find out for next week. Stitcher and all the likes. So if you like the episode, listen back to other episodes. We talked about a lot of cool stuff. We have an alternate podcast series on this very feed called The Chronicles of Diesel that Devin mentioned. It kind of is what it sounds. It's a chronological journey through Vin Diesel's filmography month by month. We just did The Fast and the Furious was the latest one, and we had a big blast doing it. So it's already on this feed. You don't need to go anywhere. Just scroll down. And then when you're done listening to all 49 other episodes, you know what? I'll do you one better. When you're done with this episode, I want you to go on twitter.com and tweet at us at Sonic Movie Show and let us know if you've ever played this game ever in your life. Did you even beat it? You know, did you play it on Sega Ages? Because I think that's a great lineup of games.
If you're a boomer and you're like, yes, I got it with the Sega Genesis when I bought it at my local game store, my Radio Shack or whatever it was around back then.
My Babbages. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, did you beat this game?
Or if you're a
as
Zoomer,
a kid,
if you're
as an
like
adult,
13.
however? Do you remember the pilot named Hedgehog?
Or is Sonic
Exactly.
Forces the only experience you have with Sonic? I don't know.
And I highly recommend this game. It's an improvement. And it's on Nintendo Switch. Yeah, let us know. Then go ahead and follow us on Twitter at Sonic Movie Show, obviously. My name was Ethan. I'm on Twitter at Ethan Absolutely. Devin over here is on Twitter at CURSONA YouTube. No jokes this time. That's his YouTube, or that's his Twitter. I guess it's also his YouTube.
Yes.
But the show is on Sonic Movie Show's YouTube, though. And yeah, let us know what you thought of Sonic the Hedgehog. And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Goodbye. I'll see you at the Genesis.